inside a chicken shack. So I left for the city, and I didn't look back. Now I'm living in hope, living in hope, living in hope, living in hope. Yes, I'm living in hope.
Chelmsford, hello, Jordan.
Oh, hello, Nick. Nick, frankly, listening to you winds me up because, in my opinion, I'm a very, very good man, nice person, but the stuff you're spouting, mate, is just absolutely everything that's wrong with this country.
Can you be more specific?
Well, you're just beating around the bush the whole time. You're not getting to the point with the issues that are concerning the general public.
Like?
You're supporting Labour. Yes, I agree that absolutely the Conservatives need to get their house in order, right? But you're saying stuff like stop the small boats, stop the small boats. When
I'm saying stop the small boats. No, I was playing a clip of Fishy Sunak saying stop the boats.
The country's priority
stop the boats, stop the boats, he said.
Yeah, stop the boats.
Yeah, Keir Starmer was saying stop the small boats. They're not going to... I'm a Conservative. I want Labour to come to me and give me a real proposal that's going to actually benefit the indigenous people of this country to deal with the problem at hand.
Which is what?
The country being broken into. But you keep playing it down.
Broken into?
Yes.
Are you talking about the people who arrive on the south shores of this country in small boats?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How many came last year, about?
Right, this is classic. So you're going to say it's roughly 45,000 a year is not a problem. Well, there's a problem.
But 400,000 people arrived by other legal means.
Well, it doesn't matter, because the security at Glastonbury and other festivals is much more stricter. I mean, when are you guys on the left going to get real and actually accept that this is an issue, and people don't like what they're seeing and don't like the fact that we've been taking the Michael out? You won't, will you?
Right, so you think that the problem with this country is that 40-odd thousand people arrive by boats, about 80% of which, when they go through the system, are found to have a viable claim for asylum.
You along with the left, won't ever get to the point where you will.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah, I did hear what you said.
Well, what's your answer?
My answer is this: we get to a point where we become selfish and we deal with the problem at hand, and we have a zero tolerance approach. We haven't got the resource or the, let's say, the capacity to deal with what's coming. And then you're going to say, oh, well, we should process those claims in Calais, etc. Why do it in Calais? We have the facilities to process them here. I mean, they could be processed within a week, couple of weeks, but it's taking years. The Tories have engineered this problem in order to get people like you permanently angry and desperate to vote for them again to fix a problem that they caused. Don't you get that you are being manipulated, Jordan? You can say I'm being manipulated, and fair enough. I understand that they're far from perfect and they've got very serious issues to sort. Believe me, Tory members, etc., we're absolutely fuming, and Rishi's got a big point to prove. But you're selling the Starmer way of things.
No, I'm not. When did I ever sell the Starmer way of things?
It comes across like that.
Well, I can't believe that you've actually listened to this show for more than 5 minutes, Jordan. Because
I listen very hard, mate, and I listen to a lot of your presenters. And for me, you're taking the Michael out of all the Tories this, Tories that. Well, tell me what Starmer's going to do about it. Oh
my God! After 13 years of Conservative rule, it's still Labour's fault. What, you people are just out of your minds. I mean, the pent-up fury and anger that your life hasn't gone the way that you imagined it. And whose fault is that? Is it your fault? No, of course not. It's actually luck's fault. But you can't blame luck, because what is it? You can't touch it, feel it, smell it, or see it. It's just stuff that happens. It's called life. And not everybody gets the perfect life, Jordan. And so you can't blame luck, so what else do you blame? You can't blame yourself, because why would you do that? And so who do you blame? Others. An easily identifiable minority. And in this case, it's 40,000 people 80% of whom have viable claims of asylum, so would be accepted in any well-run country straight away, but the Conservative Party have engineered the problem that people stay in hotels at our expense, not able to work for years. That's not an accident, it's deliberate, in order to make people like you angry, Jordan, with great success. Like I said, you are being manipulated. If you just take a pause and pull back and think about it for a moment, how are you in Chelmsford affected by people arriving in Dover? The hospital waiting lists in Chelmsford aren't being affected by that. What's that got to do with you? But it's pointless telling them because they just won't listen. They've made a major life decision based on no information of any kind apart from propaganda that they're being fed all day long by a party that wants to just that wants to manipulate by dividing. And it usually works everywhere that a political party has the nerve to try it on. And I don't believe for a second that you've listened to a lot of this show. Why would you choose to listen to something that you don't like? Unless you just like being angry. In which case, I wish you all the best. Have a terrible life, if that's really what you want. Lancaster, Rupert.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, sir.
I'm absolutely bursting with pride for English women's cricket tonight.
Bursting?
They've sold out Lords. They've beaten the Australians. English women's cricket, female women's cricket is absolutely going through the roof.
Is it?
They're sold out for the rest of the series, and I think we can actually beat the Australians. And I tell you what, the women's cricket is every bit as special as the men's game.
Right. Is it?
So what do you think about that?
Is it cricket?
It's absolutely looking like it is.
Yeah, but are they, when they're playing it, are they playing cricket?
They're playing cricket. To the absolute...
Okay, well, I'm not remotely interested. I can't express in words how totally uninterested I am in cricket. And nor do I really have any idea what you're talking about. Women's cricket have just sold out for something or other. It's going through the roof, or, it's just tremendous. And they've never been so happy. It sounds like something you just made up to me. But I have no clue as to what it is you're talking about. And neither am I interested. Cricket, it's not even a proper game. How is it still a thing? Mystifying. Wimbledon, hello, Humphrey.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir.
I would entirely agree about when holding a door for a lady.
Or man.
They should.
Or man.
Yes. Or man. All right. You should get thanked. And I say loudly, thank you. And now, to get on to my next point, your dereliction of cricket is rather odd. It's a very, very good English game. Why don't you like it?
So dull, boring. Nothing
it is not so dull, but no.
Nothing ever happens.
Well, sir, the Australians played us. Now, what are you laughing at, son?
You.
Why?
Well, if you stop being funny, I'll stop
I'm
laughing.
not being funny. You're being very rude. No, sir. You're being very, very rude, sir. Now, sir, Nick, come on. Let's be reasonable about this.
Yeah.
Let's be polite to each other.
Right.
Don't laugh at me with that infuriates me. It's a very, very good game. Thousands of people watch it.
I don't really believe that they do. They may go to it, but I don't think they watch it much.
Of course they do.
No, I think they're propping up the bar and they're watching the TV behind the bar, which is showing the tennis.
But the point is, do you know how cricket is played?
Yes, slowly.
Right. Yeah. Oh, God's sake.
That's true. They just stand around wearing other people's jumpers and nothing ever happens.
Of course does, sir. Of course it does. And also another very, very quick question, sir. Last time I was on, why did you not think that my name was Humphrey?
Because I think the act is just a little bit too good.
Well, no, sir. No, this accent of mine comes from my parents and generations before them.
Right.
I was asked by an American, sir. I was asked by an American in the museum in which I worked. I went to.
Well, you do sound like you come from a museum.
No, could it be? Wait a minute. I was asked where you taught to speak like this. What are you laughing at?
I don't know. You sound like you come from Carry On Up the Khyber. Is this real life or am I hallucinating?
This is real life, sir. I come from a generation of very, very good, hard-working army officers. I got a VC in my family and one or two GCs. Now, come on.
I'm very sorry to hear that. That must be awful.
Do you know what a VC is, sir?
Can you get?
Do you know what a VC is?
Can you get a cream for that?
Victoria costume, idiot, sir. What are you laughing at?
Like I said, if you stop being funny, I'll stop laughing.
I am not being funny. I am telling you what life is, sir.
Right. Okay. Well, consider me told.
Yes.
Excellent work. Thanks a lot, Humphrey. This show, I mean, I am blaming you personally.
What just happened?
I've got no idea. I mean, what just happened in the last 55 minutes?
I quite liked Humphrey. I thought he was a good caller, to
well,
be honest.
yeah, he may well go on my best of. I think I'm going to put you on my best of again, Humphrey.
Good.
Yeah, not necessarily, no.
Will you let me have that back on your program again?
Absolutely.
Are you to entertain you?
Yes, and yes, in that order. Thanks a lot, Humphrey, for, whatever that was. This is one of the strangest shows I've ever done so far. What is happening on this programme? I'm doing it and I have no idea. Chiswick, hello, Richard.
Yes, good morning. Or no, actually, good evening.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, exactly that. He's 18% ahead in the polls, but I'd never thought in a million years I'd agree with Mick Lynch. But he's right. Who do Labour now represent? Who does Keir Starmer? Mick Lynch, when growing up, identified with the Labour Party more than Keir Starmer does. And they're frightened. If you were to get Keir Starmer, Angela Rayner, Sadiq Khan, three figureheads of the Labour Party, you'd get three different attitudes on all the subjects. You get three different types of Labour. Labour in London is more like a student union, a middle-class students' union.
Well, I'd take issue on that.
Well, maybe you would, but during the strikes, during anything, you have not seen Labour in London, Momentum or anything, come out and support the unions, the strikes. Bearing in mind, it's the unions that actually fund the Labour Party. Would you say the people in the Red Wall North identify with the people in London? And Angela Rayner was part of Corbyn's New Labour.
It depends what you mean by identify with. I mean, are they just like everybody else, desperate to get ahead in life, to enjoy life? So they want their children to have a good education. They want to live a healthy life. They want to rely on the NHS. They want to look forward to a happy retirement. I mean, of course, people are the same. It doesn't matter where they come from. And people in London, some of the poorest areas in the country are in London. Don't forget.
So where does the Red Wall come from then? And how did Labour turn that? How did the Tories turn that blue? They turned that blue because the Red Wall no longer identified with the average working person.
No, I don't agree with that at all. They turned it blue by building up hatred of foreigners and lying to everybody how great Brexit was going to be. That's how it happened. You would think that those people would have learnt through experience that they were responding to a tower of untruths and vote accordingly next time around. Harrow, Jonathan, Harrow.
Nothing. Okay, Nick.
What?
Hello?
Yes?
Sorry, I was just saying something to someone. I wanted to say, I sort of had a few points, if I could say.
Well, let's find out.
Okay. I don't want to bring the mood down, but I told you before.
No.
Okay.
Are you about to bring the mood down?
No, but it will be cheerful.
You're about to bring the mood down, but it's going to be cheerful. Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. So I was in the, I don't know if I didn't tell the boy if you can mention the top names, but I was in the Aldi.
First of all, did you call my glamorous assistant the boy?
Yeah, I didn't run it through him if I can mention the top name.
You ran him through. Go ahead.
And I was in the Aldi, I'll be honest.
In the Aldi. Mm-hmm.
And I felt for the first time such a depression.
Well, it's it's a no frills shopping experience. It's not supposed to be depressing, though.
No, because I had to dismiss one of my cleaners because irony of ironies.
Hang on a minute. Whoa. Back up.
Yeah.
You had to dismiss one of your cleaners.
Because I had a pair, and I voted Brexit, not because I'm a racist, but the poorest one, she left the country.
Yeah, after 5 years of yelling at her to get out of our country, she did.
I didn't vote Brexit for the racialist reasons.
Right.
Okay.
You didn't vote Brexit for racist reasons, right? You're not a racist, but go on.
But she left, so I had to dismiss one of the other one that was left. So financially, I'm getting crippled. I haven't been abroad since I told you I was in holiday in January.
Right. Never mind about that. You have 2 cleaners. How dirty are you?
No, but you're not getting my point, because when I feel depressed and I take day trips to central London, and if you go to places like the Marble Arch, there's so much money.
Jonathan, if I'm depressed, Marble Arch is the last place on earth I would want to go. What do you want to go to Marble Arch for? It's just a roundabout.
No, you've got the street of a lot of the Middle Eastern shops. You know, the kebab shops and all of this, the shisha bar.
Right.
But the point is...
And that's supposed to cheer you up.
There are pockets of such wealth in this country.
Yeah, mostly in London. Mostly.
Because I'm getting crippled financially. I actually went...
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing you should do is clean up after yourself. Fire your cleaners. I've never heard of anybody who needs 2 cleaners.
Can I make another quick point?
Why do you need 2 cleaners?
Well, because you only live life once. No, listen to me.
What's that got to do with it?
I had a more serious point to make. Can I make it? It's about the Greek men.
It's about Greek men.
Because there were videos on the news about the Greek bouncers who are very tough. And look, a lot of your listeners, they mark me on the Twitter because I said the wokey problem that we've got.
Yeah, we've got a big problem with the wokey.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think you agree with me because it's really suffocating.
Can I just say and state on the record that I don't agree with you about anything?
Well, I think that's quite rude, actually. But the point is...
Well, no. You ain't heard nothing yet, Jonathan. Stick around.
No, but the thing is that so British men now are becoming very feminine.
Yeah.
And when they go abroad, it is not the days of the British Raj. Mm-hmm. And when they go to Spain or the Greece, they have their little hats and I'm not homophobic.
But
well, I went to the Bond Street station and there were rainbows everywhere. It's true. I'm being serious.
Right. Now, is that because of the conjunction of sunlight and moisture in the air, or you're talking about flags?
No, it was a huge escalator.
Yeah.
I don't know if you take public transport because some of your presenters used to say they have private drivers, like when I listened 10, 12 years ago. I don't know if you do.
Private drivers?
Yeah, like the Nick Ferrari, he has a driver. And
okay. Right.
So you can't... Okay, anyway, moving on. But in the Barn Street, on the escalator, there was the Gays Pride flag.
That's a big sign, Jonathan. You don't want to take an escalator in case it turns you gay.
No. But the last point I wanted to make is, did you get scared when I said the Nick Ferrari's driver? Because he's the big daddy of the station.
Well, he certainly is, but I don't think that he gets driven. I mean, are you talking about a cab?
No, because before, when I used to, when I had more money, my main place was in London. Now I've just got the one place. And I used to listen in the morning, and he used to talk about the fact he had a Muslim driver, and they were very good friends.
Right.
He used to talk about it.
Okay. But
on
what does
the
that have to do with all the rainbow flags on the escalator and you turning gay by using public transport?
No, I'm not gay. But the
Are
point
you
is,
sure about that?
No, because you were saying don't take public transport, take a driver. But in central London,
it is somewhat suspicious that you're hanging around Bond Street, though.
But the point, now listen to me. The point is that the Englishmen now, if you go into a boxing gym or something,
If you go into a what?
If you go into a boxing gym,
a boxing gym, right?
Yeah, a lot of the men's are the Eastern Europeans, because the British men nowadays are mainly concerned with wearing the little gay hats and talking about that.
Little gay hats and lipstick and some concealer. Yeah, I understand. So when was the last time you went into a boxing gym, other than never?
No, about sort of 2-3 years ago, I did a few sessions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I did a few sessions.
Yeah.
And
hung around in the sauna to see what you could see. I understand.
Well, but the thing is that I don't want to, before, I know you've let me speak, but before I go, you don't think, Jeremy Corbyn, do you think he would have made this country? No, listen to me. Do you think he would have made this country?
You need an A to Z to figure out where this conversation is going. Now we're talking about Jeremy Corbyn. If your question is, would this country be better with him in charge? Absolutely, yes, 100%.
But it is not, nothing is, guaranteed, because like I said, I had to sell my car.
You fired one of your cleaners.
I haven't been on a holiday. And by the way, on the Twitter, there says that Jonathan in Harrow, he's dodgy. I do nothing corrupt for my money, and I'm such a considerate neighbour that I did not even want to put the fan on at night in case it...
Jonathan, every time you call me, other than this particular instance, you've got people banging on your walls from next door telling you to keep it down. That is not a considerate neighbour. No,
because I'm in a hotel today. It's holiday.
Right.
Because
you can make as much noise as you like because you've paid for the room. Damn it!
But it's expensive, and financially, I'm struggling in this country.
Yeah, you've only got the one cleaner now. I understand. Well, unfortunately, I came without my violin. Otherwise, I'd been playing it for you right now. Thanks a lot, Jonathan, for whatever that was. Stuff you hear on the radio. It's amazing. Yes.
Yes,
it is. Maybe I'm amazed. Get Paul McCartney on the phone and he can sing it for us. Dagenham, Verrall.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I've been a Labour voter. My whole family, and it's a lot of us, been voting for Labour, and none of us is going to ever vote Labour again.
Why is that?
You just mentioned the name. A little man called Sadiq Khan. And also...
But what is it that Sadiq Khan has done that turns you off at the entire party?
Excuse me. My wife is a cancer sufferer.
Is a what?
Cancer patient.
Right.
She's got to go to hospital sometimes 3 times a week. Can you imagine how much it's going to cost me to take her to hospital when they're bringing in things that they got a bus pass. We're pensioners, but we can't use it before 9 o'clock. Before 9:30. We're getting appointments for hospitals for 8:30, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I've got to use my car.
Right.
An old car.
Well, I don't think
never failed an MOT.
I don't think that the cut-off was actually in Sadiq Khan's gift, but I could be wrong about that. I don't think it was actually his fault, if you want to put it like that, at all.
What cut-off? Cut-off for what?
The one that you've just described. You can't use your pensioner card before 9.
When it came in first, you could use it 24/7.
Right.
Sadiq Khan has changed all that.
Right. Again, I'm not sure that it was actually Sadiq Khan that did that. But
I don't care who changed it. It's Labour.
but you don't care who changed it, whether... OK, so whether it was Conservative policy or not, it was the Labour Party's fault. OK, understood. Thanks, Verrall. It seems odd to base your decision on who you're going to vote for from now on a bus pass rather than the quality of service that you're getting from the NHS, which is, of course, not the Labour Party's fault at all. I think that is picking and choosing rather specifically there, Verrill. Staffordshire, Mel.
Hi, my friend.
Mel.
How are you?
Great, mate.
I've got a bit of a sidebar before I get to the question I was going to ask. You mentioned earlier that most of the people coming across the channel were probably entitled to asylum.
Yeah, about 80% of those that actually eventually get put through the system. Something like that.
Yeah, so why do they throw their passports and their phones away in the sea?
Why do they throw them in the sea? Well, what evidence is there that they've thrown them in the sea? I mean, if you were leaving a war zone, would you go around your flat looking for your passport and your papers and a letter from your doctor and all of that sort of stuff, or would you just get out of there to avoid dying?
Yeah, but most of them have got phones while they're in France.
Most of them have what?
Most of them that are on the beaches in France have got phones. They showed a program of it. Most of them got phones better than I've got. But there was someone filmed them, didn't they, throwing them in the sea when they were coming across in dinghies. I just wondered why they'd do that if they think they're entitled to coming out. That's all. That was just
what have their phones got to do with it?
Pardon?
What have their phones got to do with it?
Phones and passports, I'm on about. They're basically to hide their identity, I suppose.
Their phones?
Phones and passports.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that they throw their phones into the sea. Why would they do that? Why would anybody throw their phone anywhere? I mean, people freak out if their phone gets taken off them in a concert. They put them in that little bag and they zip it up and you can only open it at the end of a concert. People just lose their minds about that. Throw them in the sea. Do me a favour. Enfield, Mike. Mike. Oh, Mike. Oh, no, there was an ecstasy of fumbling there. Let's just check. I'll give him one last chance. Yes, Mike.
Sorry. I think MTD, the income tax, also lost 22 million because they were trying to put to change the VAT system. It cost them 22 million, still not working.
MTD,
make tax digital.
Right.
And the other thing was, why, if I paid, say, £100,000 for a house and they built a station next to it and the price goes up by, it trebles or quadruples, when I pass away, why do my children have to leave the house which they've been born in because they can't pay the inheritance tax? That's the problem.
Well, if they can't pay it, then they
have to move out.
I suppose so.
Yeah. Because the inheritance tax is only, $325,000.
Well, how would you get around it, though? Without?
Well, you'd start at $1 million and then go up in stages.
But people will say, people will say, well, my house is worth £1 million, but I don't actually have any income. I'm asset rich and cash poor.
Yeah, I know. But if they said, okay, we start at $1 million, and if the house is worth, and then you go up in stages like in income tax.
You're not listening to me, Mike. It doesn't matter how much you start at, the situation will remain the same. People will always, at some point, have to move out of their house in order to pay the tax.
Which is wrong, isn't it?
No.
Why do I have to move out?
Because you have to pay the tax.
Next to it.
Because you have to pay the tax. It's unearned. It's income that you have accrued. Why should you not have to pay tax on that? You pay tax on everything else.
Okay, we're paying tax for the 22 million lost. We're paying tax for all the mistakes of the government.
Well, that's that is a different matter, and I completely agree with that. It's irritating to pay tax to a government that seems to be intent on just throwing it away or giving it to their mates, which, to my mind, is one and the same thing. That I will agree with you on. Yeah. It's really annoying to have to pay so much tax and get so little back for it. I mean, if we were one of the, the perfect Scandinavian countries, those people are always so perfect. They pay a lot of tax, but their government provides for them. They didn't go through a period of austerity. They don't feel that they are just one missed paycheck away from losing their house and a roof over their heads. They don't feel that they might not be able to heat and eat at the same time. They don't feel that in their old age they're going to be living a life of abject poverty because the government provides. That's the reason they're so happy. They always top the happiness index. Doesn't mean they're walking around laughing to themselves. It means they're comfortable. They're not in fear of the future. Because the state acts like a comfort blanket. It protects them. Whereas in this country, we pay and we pay and we pay. And what the hell do we get back for it? Everything that we pay tax for is being closed down. Libraries, swimming pools, social care, the NHS, the police. I mean, good grief. Is there anything that we pay tax for that we would expect a service in return that has not been sort of wound down, if not collapsed entirely? I mean, the justice system has pretty much collapsed entirely. I mean, if you are burglarised, then you will find that the police aren't remotely interested because they just haven't got the time. They're not in expectation of finding somebody who's nicked your stereo. They don't. It's right at the bottom of the list. So they probably won't even come out to check you out. Dust for fingerprints. Do me a favour. They're not going to do that. They haven't got time to follow up on the murders. Never mind about somebody just nicked your car. So where the hell does the tax actually go? It's an excellent question. I can understand completely that people will feel irate at having to pay an inheritance tax, or the death tax, as they will be calling it from now on. Believe me, this will be probably the last time that you hear the phrase inheritance tax, certainly coming out of the mouth of a Tory. They will all be, they'll get the memo first thing on Monday morning. We are, from this moment on, calling it the death tax because that's what's worked in America. People don't like to contemplate the idea of dying or paying tax, but you put the two and two together and people will be freaking out. But yeah, where does the money go? It wouldn't be so bad if we paid all this tax and we actually felt that we were getting something back for it. God, it's infuriating, ain't it? It's almost as though this is not a very well-run country. Weybridge, Ray.
Good evening, sir. How are you today?
Yes, sir. Very well, thanks.
Good. I think, you know what, I'll declare right now, disclosure, I'm set to make a lot of money because of ULEZ. But let me just tell you this, that it's just that. It's a total waste of time because if you have enough money, don't care what car you drive, you can come into the ULEZ zone. So this is just,
But what do you mean that you're going to make a lot of money? Doing what?
Well, I'm in the industry, the automobile industry, and lots of people, 1.5 million people need to change their cars by August.
Right.
And I'm going to be helping to do that. In reality, we're just playing at the edges. This is not solving any problems. I mean, if your boxer shorts, sir, with respect, it's coming from China on a diesel tanker to bring it over here, a diesel ship. I mean, what are we talking about in terms of environment? The kids that are picking up this stuff in Congo, being paid 8p a day with bare hands. What are we really talking about?
But, okay, so is your proposal then that we must fix all problems at the same time rather than one at a time?
No, I'm just thinking, what I'm thinking, in fact, what you just said just now on your monologue there before I got on, you're talking about these new building places are going to seclude people who, if you don't have a clean car, whatever. So they're not going to exclude, but what the policy is, it's nudging people to drive less polluting cars. Isn't that a good idea? It's a fantastic idea, but have you paid the people enough to buy a £30,000 car? Have they got the charging points to charge when they live in a 24-block apartment? Have you done that? You haven't done that. You're forcing people out of their cars. Some people work shifts. But you know, the doctors, the nurses, the train drivers, they have to be at work. They've got their cars. I'm in the car business. I've been in the car business all my life. I'm never going to buy one of them electric cars.
Right, but you don't have to, though, to pass the requirements to drive in an ultra-low emissions zone. It seems like an odd name for a zone that would allow people to drive for free in a diesel car and a petrol car, but that's where it is. I mean, I assume that it was politically unacceptable to ban all fossil fuel run cars.
Yes.
But most people don't have a car that would fall foul of those regulations anyway.
Well, yeah, no, but some people don't have a choice. Van drivers, you know, your little landscape guy that comes around and does that. Now he needs to go and buy and invest in a new van. I think we're dividing society. I can see it, based on money, based on what you can afford. We're just breaking society down. And this, like I say, I disclosed earlier, I'm set to make money in this.
Right.
But
Okay.
I'm
Well.
telling you now-
All right. Well. Good for you. But do you have an answer then? How we could clean up our air, or is that not something really that concerns you?
No, it does concern me. I remember years ago, when you land in Heathrow, your eyes used to get, what's the word, stingy.
Yeah.
Just because of it. Yeah. So, no, it does, unless there's a curtain in the atmosphere with all the pollution coming from China that would not get here.
Okay, but there we are. There we are
making
back
us
at we can't do anything unless all other problems are solved at the same time. I'm not sure I buy that. I mean, okay, the pollution that buying your stuff from China that gets sent over here by boat is considerable. It's one of those things that people don't really think very much about. The pollution that is caused by marine transport, it's massive. But it doesn't affect you personally at the point at which you walk along, let's say, the Strand or the High Street in your town. That is much more personal, and it is literally in your face. And the air, I can recall walking in the centre of London before the ULEZ zone came in, and I had to hold my breath for quite a significant way, really. I kept testing the air and thought, no, I can't. I was on the Strand, and there's only so many side roads off the Strand, and I remember having to continue to walk while holding my breath till I could find one of those side roads because it was unbreathable. That's not the case anymore. I was stuck behind, and I like the buses. It's a beautiful design, but the engines are just intolerable now. I was stuck behind one of those old buses just coming in today. And the clouds of pollution that was coming off that bus, it was, I felt like my life was ebbing away just getting into work because I was stuck behind that thing. So there's no doubt about it. Our health is being affected. It's just that what do we do about it? We can do nothing, or we can go along with these ultra-low emission zones and low traffic neighbourhoods and so on, or maybe there's something else that you would suggest. Let's have Maidenhead. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Nick.
Paul.
Hope you're well.
Yes, good, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, God, that last call was so funny talking about accents when she had such a strong middle-class accent, anyway.
She had a middle-class accent?
I thought she did.
Right.
And
see, that's not what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say she had a strong Liverpudlian accent, but you think middle-class. You went straight for the class part, not the area part.
Well, it's... I'm like you. It doesn't matter what accents people have. I know a lot of Muslim guys, Hindu guys, Buddhist people, English guys from the pub and everything like that.
Guys from the pub are not included in any of the above. Where do they come from?
Well, they've all got different accents and they're all cool. So right. I don't judge anyone on an accent. I just judge them on how they are as a person.
Yeah. My assertion is that while if you get to know them or talk to them for more than, let's say, 10 seconds, you can then revisit your initial instinctual opinion. People with a strong accent, people's immediate instinctual reaction is that this person is not a very bright person that I'm talking to, which may be 100% wrong if you then engage with them and you can, come to a different conclusion. But your instinctual reaction is, no.
Well, exactly, but it's not my instinctual reaction. It's I take people as I find them, right. And it doesn't matter about the
I think it's just that
the accent.
Yeah,
doesn't matter about the religion. Doesn't matter about the colour.
But but it's part of our defence mechanism, because we're basically animals, that we react poorly initially to people that aren't exactly like us. They are from a different gang. I mean, I think it goes back to, as
tribal thing.
Yeah, as basic a society as you can imagine, as living in caves. And if people from the cave around the way there, they talk different because they've, grown up amongst their own Neanderthals, then we will fear them, and that's the instinctual reaction.
Well, those people who fear that instinctual reaction are stupid, in my opinion, because they should just bleed with them and get to know them.
Well, exactly. The getting to know them part will then change your opinion, perhaps, based on new experience. Yes, but your instinctual reaction is negative.
Yeah, but, no, not for me. Other people maybe. But my main point was about bats, when you were talking about looking out the windows and seeing all these bats flying around. They are not loads. I look out the window and I've got little bats flying around me.
Yeah.
And they're the same ones. There's not more bats. It's not like you see loads of bats.
No. I bet it's just the one.
Ones.
Oh, yeah, I bet it's just the one bat.
Oh, I see about between 3 and 5, and they're all the same bats, and they all stop down and everything, and I've got stag beetles around and everything, and they're all the same ones.
Blimey, it's like a zoo over at your place.
Oh, I wish it was. Yeah, I've got a hedgehog problem as well.
I've never seen a hedgehog in my life. I've never actually come... I've seen a squash one in the road, but not a living one.
That's the joke. How does a hedgehog cross the road to see his flatmate?
Oh.
That's not joke.
But you screwed it up there, Paul. It's not how, it's why.
Yeah, why did the... Yeah, sorry. Screwed it up.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think you better think it out again. All right, thanks a lot, Paul. Kensington, Richard.
Hello, hi.
Richard.
Yeah, it's interesting, all this, because I'm American, but I've lived here since the mid-'70s. And it's very interesting, the aspect of America, especially these days. They look at England as being a missile base to protect America in many ways, because we have, that is, my country has a lot of bases here.
Yeah.
A tremendous amount, and they have aircraft carriers and all sorts of things.
But they have. America has military dotted all over the world. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but I very much doubt that we are, chief among their distribution.
Oh no, they're all over the place. So you go to Mexico and you can see how America controls Mexico because they're close to Cuba.
Right. I'm not sure that it's accurate that America controls Mexico.
Well, I know Mexico fairly well because I used to go to San Diego a lot because my mother moved out there years ago, and and it was only a half-hour drive to Mexico.
I mean, you said that you've been here since the 70s. Am I right in thinking that this sort of special relationship really took light with Reagan and Thatcher?
Yes, it did, actually.
And since then, is this something really that you find more in the minds of the British rather than the Americans, or is it something that occupies the American mind?
No, it doesn't at all. No. Occupy the Americans' minds. I mean, in many ways, the Americans look at Britain as like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles,
I don't really know what you mean by that.
Well, those two bands from the,
Oh, I know there were two bands, yeah. So, right, okay, so one, Britain is the Beatles and America's the Rolling Stones? I imagine it would be that way around.
No, both of them. Like my mom loved the Beatles, my dad loved the Stones, yeah.
Right, I'm still a little confused, but thanks for that. Thanks for that, Richard. Hornchurch, Glenn.
Good evening, Nick.
Hello, Glenn.
Do you think that it's possible that Sir Keir has been the reason he's been so muted in his promotion of the Labour government and their spending plans, and he's not been you can't accuse him of ripping into the existing government. Do you think that's because we as a country are so catastrophically broke that he knows that it's going to take generations to recover from this, and until he gets in and finds out what the true state of affairs is, he's not prepared to commit himself to anything?
Well, I'm sure that there's some truth to that, but if a government wants to afford something, then it can by simply magicking money out of thin air, which is what governments do.
But do you think then, in an era of rapidly rising interest rates, that any figure that they took into account 13 years ago has now been rendered completely useless by the Bank of England and the global interest rates anyway, and that the amount that they're borrowed at the moment is going to cost the country an entire fortune and generations to get rid of?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I don't buy that you have to wait for growth in order to start spending on infrastructure and the things that people rely on. You start the spending and that leads to growth.
And you're absolutely right. But I think until when the last Labour government left, they bunged a note in a drawer somewhere that said the cupboard's empty.
I wish people would. I wish they hadn't done that. A, and I wish people would stop going on about it. B, because that's like a long-running joke, apparently, amongst governments that are on the way out. It's just...
Well, Nicky, it's not a joke. It actually happened.
Well, but it didn't happen. I mean, there's no such thing as
they never said that.
No, they did say it, but the situation that they described was false. There was money. There always is money. Governments can find money. If we were dragged into a war, we would have no problem in finding just enough money as was required to protect us. There's always money if you're a government because you can just make it. Chiswick, hello, Tony.
Hello, Nick.
Tony.
I'm a London taxi driver, and I think he's done the damage already. I don't think if he cancelled it now, there's people out there that hate him.
But don't those people understand that it's not Sadiq Khan's policy, it's the government's policy that they have insisted he follows, while criticising him for doing it?
Well, everything he's doing, like bike lanes, all up green lanes, is interfering. You can't, all the shops up green lanes, you can't stop and get takeaway. You know, you can't go and stop anywhere up green lanes. If you want to go in one of the little shops, he's screwed up all the shops. He's just doing everything. Everyone I talk to in the cab, they all hate him.
Right.
They hate him.
Yeah. Again, do they not understand that it is a legal requirement to improve the air in London? How else is Sadiq Khan going to do that?
Well, apparently, the air in London is clean, yeah, and the suburbs is clean as well. He makes up all these things about 20,000 deaths in London. It's a load of baloney.
Well, you don't know. You don't know that, Tony, any more than he does to put a figure on that at 20,000. I mean, I've heard everything from like 10,000 to 40,000. But to say that the air is clean isn't true. It might be cleaner. It very much depends on where you stand.
One girl died of air emissions, and she had chronic asthma. Yeah, and they're bringing all these figures in. The guy's unbelievable. And the other thing, Transport for London. Do you know what Transport for London are?
Well, do I know what they are?
Do you know where they come from? If you Google them up, it's a money-raising organisation. Now, how did they get to run London?
Transport for London raises money in order to invest in Transport for London, and that's where the money from the ULEZ charge is going to. I think before you become angry at a politician, it's probably best to actually look at what it is that they do and why they're doing it. Maybe, I don't know, read the Daily Mail less. Let's have Redbridge, Razza.
Hi.
Yes, sir.
How are you? Can you hear me okay?
I can, go ahead.
I'm going to ask you a question. How are you? And it's very relevant for the discussion.
I am great, mate.
So normal courtesy would be that you'd ask me back, right?
well, there's nothing courteous about this show.
So the answer is, I feel absolutely terrible.
Right, I didn't ask. Very rude, very rude of you to impose upon me how you feel without me asking.
I thought you would ask at some point, but you know, so I thought I would answer just to preempt it.
Disabuse you of that notion.
Well, I've got a couple of things I want to try and discuss with you, if it's okay.
But first, let me ask you this.
Go on.
How are you?
Absolutely awful, and there's a reason for that.
Awful?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you are full of awe? Is that what you mean?
Well, put it this way. I think that lightning is going to come through my window, hit my belly, and kill me because of climate change.
Thunder, lightning, very, very frightening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A freak weather accident is going to happen because we are literally going off the charts in terms of climate change. So I'm looking at my BBC News app, and the headline article says, "Climate records tumble, leaving Earth in uncharted territory." So if you're worried about climate change and you wake up to see that headline, you think that you have reached that catastrophic day where it's completely out of control. So you scroll down into the article, and then it shows a graph of hottest June on record and going back like 100 years.
Yes.
It's literally going up now in a parabolic straight line.
Yeah. Up like a rocket taking off.
Exactly. So that tells me what my intuition tells me, which is that we are underestimating the speed of how quickly we're getting to the problem being towards the end, right? So that should make you really, really worried, right?
Well, I am concerned, but nobody else is, because what seems odd is that the more the climate is ringing a warning bell, the louder people are shouting to try to drown out that bell.
Well, the problem is that this is the next part of what I want to try and discuss with you. We should do no shouting at all, and it shouldn't even be an article on your news discussion, on your broadcast. The reason for that is I try to go and search on the internet for the point I'm going to try and make about next, which is that here in the UK, we have absolutely zero control over what's going to happen next, because the top contributors to emissions, which are causing the problem in terms of countries, are countries like China. Now, if you go and look at this website called World Odometer, hold on, let me find it.
It doesn't really matter. Is your argument that we shouldn't do anything because not everyone else is going to put that right? When we shouldn't do anything because everybody else will not go along with what we do?
Effectively, we are completely helpless as individuals, first of all.
That's completely untrue.
Well, what influence do you think UK has over China?
Well, part of the climate problem is the quality of our air,
which is something contaminated by carbon emissions, right?
Yeah, which is something over which we do have control.
Well, not really, because
of course
China
we do.
China is literally 1/3 of the global emissions.
Yes, but the air in London is cleaner now that we have the ULEZ charge, and a lot of those old polluting vehicles aren't driving around London anymore. Right. That is a direct result of our actions.
So if you go to this website I'm talking about, where do you think the UK is?
It doesn't make any difference, Raza. Is your position that we shouldn't do anything until the problem has been solved by other people?
Effectively, yes.
Okay, well, that is an asinine position to have, and as soon as you pull your head out of the sand, I want you to call me straight back. The amount of times that I've heard that is just absolutely painful. I'll point you in the direction of something amusing that can take your mind off this indefensible position of yours. It's a film called Don't Look Up. I think you'll like it. Belfast. Ian.
Nick.
Ian.
Nick, you were asking last night what have the Conservatives done that's good?
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't say that. What I said was, name me one thing that actually works in this country.
The judicial system.
The judicial system does not work in this country.
Well, do you want to live in Northern Ireland? Because we are part of the UK, and people get charged with crimes, which the other day a guy get charged with crime and get 18 years, which would normally at least be 50.
Right, so you're just disproving your own argument then?
Why? Yeah,
you said the judicial system works, and then you gave me an example, which in your opinion it doesn't.
In England it does.
It doesn't work. It does not work in England.
Well,
the judicial system has been defunded by the Conservative Party such that people spend years waiting for their cases to come up because they've halved the number of magistrates' courts and they've halved the number, well, there's 20,000 fewer police persons, 22,000 fewer police backup staff. So it's highly unlikely that you'll get caught in the first place. But even if you do, then your case, well, you'll probably expire before your case comes up before a magistrate.
Well, yeah, but Nick, can I say this, tell you? I'm allowed to speak, yeah?
Yes. Is there a reason why you wouldn't be?
Well, you just go on. But
it's a talk show. It's a talk show, Ian.
Listen. Somebody get charged with and get...
if you're talking about a specific example of a case, I don't know which case it is you're talking about, so how can I possibly comment or understand what it is that you're on about? Somebody didn't get the amount of time that you thought that they should have done. Oh, well, that's a matter for the judge and the case specific to the instance you're talking about. How am I supposed to know about that? But the judicial system famously does not work in this country. So I think you'll have to think it out again. But other than that, it's lovely to talk to you. Call any time you like. Let me see now. Who's been waiting the longest? Chelsea. Hello, Mark. An ecstasy of fumbling.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Now, it's unlikely, but if I was standing on the table during a cabinet meeting and you'd been kind enough to take me out to the pub for 5 pints... and I really needed to go, and they were on fire.
Yeah, OK. I think we know where that was going. Dreadful. Right then. Robert Jenrick. Muriel's... Well, it always looks like that to me. Muriels of cartoon characters, including but not limited to Mickey Mouse and Baloo from the Jungle Book. Ooh, ooh, ooh. No, that wasn't Baloo, was it? I want to be like you, hoo, ooby dooby dooby. Murals of cartoon characters, including Mickey Mouse and Baloo, out of the Jungle Book, painted on the walls of an asylum seeker reception centre to welcome orphaned children, have been removed on the orders of the Wicked Witch of the West. I mean, it is a cartoon-related news story, so it must have been somebody who is the personification of evil. Some nasty character that Disney used to frighten the kids, like Cruella de Vil, perhaps, or Captain Hook. I mean, that's about as likely as anyone else you'd think. Who could possibly be so heartless and twisted up inside with hatred for the world as to order cartoon murals to be painted over to give little children an even more frightening time of fleeing a war zone? Step forward and take a bow, Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick. Hip hip. The Immigration Minister is now the comedy villain in the long-running pantomime that is this government. He probably doubles up as the rear end of the pantomime horse. He's so nasty that they would qualify as the Tories' replacement for the current Home Secretary. I mean, the only thing that's unpleasant and tall as he is giant hogweed. The child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang is more popular. Seriously, what is up with this administration? The Kent Intake Unit is a reception centre for unaccompanied child asylum seekers. Unaccompanied child asylum seekers. Some of the lone children arriving in the UK are as young as 9. Being cruel to 9-year-olds is this government's number one priority.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
It's our priorities. It's our fault. Now it becomes clear. The Home Office recently disclosed that Jenrick issued the instruction to paint over the mural in April. The murals were painted over because Robert Jenrick thought they were too welcoming and sent the wrong message. The message they wish to send out is less welcoming and is in the form of a leaflet saying, "Get out of our country," in 13 different languages. The cute murals will be replaced with large pictures of the alien monster and that thing out of the Predator films. Furthermore, large poisonous snakes will be allowed to roam free in the waiting rooms, and spiders the size of dinner plates will crawl across the children's faces as they are held down by Home Office officials, subcontracted out to the government's favourite service provider. And while the ghouls in government delight in this latest act of performative cruelty to those who have no power, no voice and nowhere to hide, the staff at the reception centre for small boats arrivals in Kent were horrified by the order and opposed to painting over the murals because they are people with hearts and not some soulless purveyor of hatred desperate to whip up their few remaining fans to get out to the polls at the next election to prevent those ministers from having to find a proper job. You know, one that won't allow them to have 5 other jobs while they're doing it, and won't give them Mondays and Fridays off, and won't come with 87 grand a year and £250,000 in expenses. Home Office sources declined to comment on the claims that staff opposed Jenrick's instruction. Declined to comment. Yeah, no comment required. A Home Office spokesperson said, "Welcoming children in a safe and supportive environment is our number one priority." They didn't say that, but what they did say amounts to that. A denial of the reality. Gaslighting on maximum. Everyone gets to have their own facts. The question is, if you are in the demographic that this sort of thing is aimed at, is this really going to make it more likely that you vote Tory? And if so, exactly how dark is your heart? I mean, what's it like living in your mind? Do you think that represents our shared British values? Is that what your younger self would have approved of before you got so twisted inside that you're like a garden hose of hate, spewing bile, covering everything and everyone around you? Just curious. And despite all of that, and this might come as a shock, the Conservatives aren't very popular. I mean, they've tried everything. They've tried being unpleasant. They've tried being cruel. They've tried being nasty. And nothing seems to work. People still don't like them. A YouGov poll, the latest, gives the Labour Party a 25-point lead.
What?
25 points. Wow. The Tories are on 22. That is down 2 from the same poll last week. Labour on 47, that's +1. And the Labour Party are on 47 from having done absolutely nothing whatsoever. Just stood there, just tapping their feet, idly staring into the mid-distance, doing nothing. While the Conservative Party chew themselves up inside and vomit out all of this bile in order to make themselves more attractive. And it doesn't seem to be working. Can you believe it? The Lib Dems are on... you remember the Liberal Democrats, don't you? No. Yeah, there used to be a thing. They're on 9%. The Greenies are on 7%. Yowza. The groovy Greenies, 7%. You know, I clicked on one of those unrepresentative Twitter polls today. Was it Twitter or... yeah, I think it was Twitter. I'm spending way too much time on Twitter. Everybody is spending way too much time on Twitter. Elon Musk was absolutely right. You should restrict yourself to 300 tweets a day, maximum. I mean, even that number is way too many. 100, tops. And people were freaking out at the very idea that they'd be restricted. I mean, how much of your day is spent trawling through Twitter, desperate to try to find something that would enable you to correct somebody? I mean, 300 a day. I mean, that must take forever. But anyway, I clicked on one of these polls and it said, if there was proportional representation and your vote actually counted, who would you vote for? Which of the following parties would you vote for? And almost no one at all clicked Tory. But like I said, this is an unrepresentative sample. But something like 2% of those who expressed a preference clicked the Conservative Party. And I think getting on for half clicked the Green Party. Groovy. The groovy Greenies. So they are way more popular, I think, than they than these polling numbers suggest. It's just that people think that if I vote Green, well, it don't really count, does it? Won't make no never mind. I mean, the Greenies aren't going to win, and whichever party wins in our ridiculous system is the one that gets 100% of the power, even if they get less than 50% of the votes. Which means that people, it's a protest vote, but it's an almost mute protest vote, voting Green, which I have done many times in the past. I just couldn't bring myself to vote for anybody else. Plus, I quite like the colour. If repeated at a general election, this YouGov poll would mean that 317 Conservative MPs would lose their seats. Isn't that absolutely tragic?
No.
And those numbers would include, but are not limited to, Fishy Sunak, Jacob Rees-Smug.
My view is...
what? Grant Shapps, Michael Fabricant, and Andrea Jenkins. Tragic. And of all of the demographics, the only people who are overwhelmingly likely to vote Conservative are 65-plus leavers. No other demographic. Not by age, not by sex, not by the country they're in, Wales, Scotland, England, not by the region of those countries, not by their social grade, nothing else. The only people now that the Tories have left are 65-plus people who voted Leave. That's it. So, as those people shuffle off the end of this conveyor belt of life, then I expect we'll be saying bye-bye to quite a lot of famous household names, including, like I said, Michael Fabricant.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
Southall, Manesh.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about equilibrium, if that's okay with you.
Equilibrium, yeah, all right, go on then.
The world works in a certain way with equilibrium,
yeah,
and we've got global warming, which has been happening for donkey's years. Otherwise, we'll be stuck in the ice ages. So a lot of these people that go with the Green Party and talk about global warming affecting us, this has been happening for years and years and years. So the only thing it's affecting is the people that are living in rich countries who are by the sea who are going to be affected. So
right, and hang on. So what is your field of expertise, Manesh?
I'm an expert in global warming.
Yeah, you're not though, really, are you?
I am, kind of.
You're one of those...
From an equilibrium perspective, I am, yeah.
Right, yeah. You are a professor of equilibrium at Oxford University, right?
Not yet. I hope to go there for my MBA studies next year.
Well, you could go there for lunch. Have a nice day out. I think that's about as far as you'll get.
Nick, the point is, how are you going to react to this? This is how much coal and oil is left on this earth. Think about it.
Plenty enough to ruin everything.
Yeah, and then what? Rich people's properties?
Rich people don't have a problem. It's not rich people that are going to suffer the problems. Hundreds of millions of poor people are going to suffer first. They're going to find that the areas they live in are uninhabitable, and so they will have to leave. They'll have to either just sit there and starve to death, or they'll have to leave to go to somewhere where their crops don't fail, or where the waters do fall, or where not so much water falls. Birkenhead, hello, Peter.
Hello there, mate. You okay?
Yes, good, thanks.
Yeah, I visualised the reason. Well, I've gathered the reasons why the MP for the Ministry of Defence is resigning. I think it's because we all get a job list. Like you probably got a job list. I get a job list. Most people at work get a job list, what they've got to do, and he probably doesn't like the look of it. If you understand me.
No, I really don't. You're talking about Ben Wallace?
Yeah, Ben Wallace, yeah.
Right, okay. He doesn't like his job list. I don't really understand what that means. But let me think about that for a while there, Peter. Cheers, mate. Yeah, Ben Wallace is leaving. I'm very, very upset. After all that he's done, like, all the good things that Ben Wallace has done for us, like, I've got absolutely no idea. But
bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Ben. It's been deeply average knowing you. Ealing. Hello, Stuart.
Hey, Nick. I've made some notes today. How about that? So I just kind of got a quote, just a couple of things. So your guest that spoke quite articulately called Starmer a person of decency, and he's been nicknamed now a fiscal conservative. Your previous caller said working class people, talking about what working class people want. I think working class people have changed, and I think that if we're not careful, we will let the Conservatives win again. We're 18 points ahead, Labour, but that pendulum could very much swing. Starmer says growth, growth, growth. He's sounding, and he doesn't want to touch the Brexit situation, the single market situation. If the people of this country in the coming year or so can feel comfortable with the trajectory of Tories potentially sorting out the NHS, potentially sorting out the economy, potentially sorting out and giving hope to public services and striking, then I think things may not be Labour. The polls might change. We're talking about redistribution of wealth, these old Labour policies, and I totally agree with you, Nick, that these things are really important. But are they a painting we want to look at in a museum anymore? The colours of the country have changed somewhat, I think. That's what I really wanted to say. I wanted to say that
the colours. You mean red and blue?
I'm saying that are the Labour Party electorate seeking a leader to pioneer traditional Labour values and core values now? Labour core values and policies seen through the lens of a modern kind of veneered politics.
Right, but what would that be? I mean, we're only talking about 13 years ago that we had successful Labour government. It's not ancient history.
And that was going to be my final point. Why did the Blair work? The Blair era work? Well, we could get kind of analytical about that. Did Blair get in because of core Labour values? I mean, in ignorant terms, somebody that doesn't know too much about politics myself, even though I read a lot in papers, I would suggest that we will look back in history and not just talk about Corbyn, but we may actually be speaking about Corbyn and Starmer as being two characters that did Labour no good. I mean, neither of these characters have charisma. They're not camera friendly. They don't make us laugh as well, which I think is important.
It really isn't important. And I think a period when we have fewer clowns running the country might be refreshing. Some dull competence, I think, is in order. If you want to be amused, go see a stand-up comedian. I think we've been delighted enough by funny prime ministers. Tottenham. Hello, Simon.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Nick.
Simon.
Yes, sir. I'm phoning from down here in Tottenham, just behind the new Spurs football stadium.
Oh, yes.
Firstly, I want to say thank you to all your team about this inheritance tax. I'm extremely grateful, and a lot of us down here are.
About what?
I bought my house in 1991 when I got married from a family friend. I had to go back to Jamaica. It's a bit of a wreck, but I was an old builder. We did, me, Paul and Ian, the old gang down here, we did all the building work, made it into a family home. And then my two lovely daughters came along, Rihanna and Rebecca. David Lammy knows me. He knows who I am.
But what's this got to do with anything, though? Where are you going with this?
What I'm saying is, please, if you listen, you learn.
Well, it depends who's doing the speaking.
When they hit my children with the inheritance tax, they lose their family home, where they were born, raised and nurtured. It's all right for Rishi Sunak to say, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But it's always been a nightmare for me and the kids' mum. That why should we pay twice for our children's home?
You haven't paid twice for it.
Well, we literally have.
No, you literally haven't. You haven't paid for it at all. You paid to buy it at a very, very low price. And then over the years, it increased in price due to nothing that you've done. I mean, you could have tarted it up a bit, which may have made it more saleable. But the increase in price of your asset was nothing to do with you. It just rose like all the other boats around.
Well,
so you haven't actually been taxed on that increase in your wealth at all.
Nick, can I agree with you 1,000,000%? When they built the new Spurs Stadium, it pushed the prices of properties here through the roof, brother.
So you're agreeing with me?
Oh, 100%.
But I thought you were disagreeing with me.
No. No. When they built that bloody new stadium, it absolutely scuppered a lot of us in our community down here.
Scuppered?
The prices of our properties went through the roof.
Right, so the opposite of scuppered.
These are family homes, Nick. These are family homes. These are where our children... I mean, at one...
I'm really genuinely confused about where you're coming from here, Simon. Either... Just answer me this question. You think inheritance tax is a good or a bad thing?
It's a bad thing.
A bad thing, right, OK. Well, we'll just agree to disagree there. Thanks a lot, mate. You haven't paid any tax on the appreciation of your asset. Why should you get away with it? Why should you pay up to 45% on the work that you do in tax, but 20% or zero on the appreciation of your assets, which is how the rich make their money? Why do the rich keep getting away with it? Thanks a lot, Simon, for that genuinely confusing call. You were sort of all over the place. You were for it, you were against it, both in virtually the same sentence. Hounslow, Balvander.
Hi, Nick.
Hiya.
I love your show.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, but a lot of policies, I don't agree with you.
No.
Because, this only charge is just a waste of... it's a money-making machine.
Well, it might be a money-making machine, but is it not cleaning the air? I mean, Hounslow's a pretty congested place.
But look at Heathrow Airport. How many planes fly over? I live in Hounslow. Every 40 seconds, there's a plane flies over.
Yeah, I know.
Or listen, I'm an Asian. In Delhi, right? Air dirt, right? They said, okay, no more vehicles. 10 years diesel, 15 years petrol car. No entry whatsoever.
No entry in Delhi if you're driving a petrol car?
Yes.
Right.
Over 15 years, diesel 10 years. Why can't we do this here?
Well, that makes sense to me. It won't be politically popular, but if you're going to have a ULEZ charge in London, then why not just outside London? I mean, there will be a line beyond which you're okay, but it doesn't really make any sense because the pollution doesn't recognise that line. But the politician who suggests that is going to be quite brave, I'd suggest. Let's see now. York. Hello, Claire.
Hi, Nick.
Claire.
I have to say I'm 100% behind Malcolm.
Right.
And I absolutely love your show and never miss it, but I did find myself shouting in my head to the radio last night when you kept suggesting that there would only be marginal difference between the Tory government and a Labour government. I just think that's so disingenuous. I mean, and I think it's unfair to suggest that Labour lies. I mean, what party in opposition for years on end doesn't change their ideas. You have to change with the country, you know.
Well, yeah, but you also have to put down some kind of marker of what you actually believe in.
And he will do in his manifesto, which is bringing out, which we all now have a vote on.
Well, I've got this 5-point plan to make Brexit work in front of me, which is just the silliest thing. It really is. Make Brexit work. He's got to be kidding.
I don't see how you can run an election on the same issue that we ran the last one on. It would just be a disaster. It would be suicide. It would get us nowhere. It would just cause more division, more propaganda from the right wing. I couldn't bear it. I literally could not bear another election based on Brexit. I don't want to hear that word for a few more years.
Okay,
really
Claire, but that denies the reality of the problem that we're all facing. Just because you're bored of it doesn't mean to say that it is not affecting the country.
No, I agree with what you say there. I think what Keir has to do is get in power, then start gradually... it's a gradual process. I just think it's not a one thing issue. But I think
so he gets in power first and then tells us what he's going to do. I don't think that's the right way round.
No, I don't think he tells us what he's going to do. I think it has to be... it has to organically happen within the public, that the realisation becomes stronger and stronger with the public until they're clamouring for something to be done. And they will... The public en masse will be clamouring. I don't think we're there yet. I really don't think we're there yet. And as for proportional representation, I mean, just look at Israel. Look at the Netherlands right now with coalitions. It's an absolute blooming disaster.
No, it isn't. Most countries are run by coalitions. Most countries in Europe certainly are run by coalitions.
And it's imploding.
No, it isn't. Well, look at us. We're not run by a coalition. How are things going?
Well, in
exactly.
No, well, I know, but that's because we've got a corrupt government.
Well, but that's what you get when you don't have a coalition.
Well, I don't see
you get one party that did not get more than 50% of the votes, but with 100% of the power.
But Netherlands...
there's no point in pointing to another country that is run by a coalition and saying, well, look at them, it isn't really working out for them. The Netherlands functions as a country. I would imagine that the people in the Netherlands are more pleased with the way their country is going than most of the people in this country.
Well, their government is just imploding right now.
Yeah,
they're not getting anything done.
But, Claire, look at us.
I know, and we're going to get a chance to change them, thank God.
Right, okay, well, so do the Dutch. The Dutch do too. And I would suggest that the Dutch people are being served better by their government than the people of this country are being served by our government. It's not the coalition part that's the problem. You're bringing up specific examples and trying to make a generalisation that coalitions don't work, but they absolutely do. I would suggest that they work far better than what we have in this country, which is one minority party dictatorship after another, which, I mean, it just doesn't work very well for us from recent experience, does it? Southampton, hello, Will.
Hello there, Nick.
Hello
it's
there.
Jolly nice to speak to you.
Yes.
Jolly nice. I heard the most ludicrous pronouncement after the by-elections down there in southwest England on my television. I mean, I don't know what they're putting in the pastry down there, but this ludicrous announcement by this woman said, look, I'm glad now that we've got a representative as an MP in Westminster, but you see, we're very good at winning and running local government. You see, well, if that's all they want, local government, I'm not interested. If you'll never ever be a national party in this country, so I've never understood why people vote Liberal Democrat, because they do not win government in this country. It's just a cop-out, Nick.
Well, I mean, are you suggesting that we should only be able to vote for one of two parties?
Well, when the late David Amos said to me, I met him as I was coming back from London, he was returning to London, railway station, and he said to me, I like your politics, but they're never going to win an election. And I said, yeah, but, you know, having principles maybe, but he said to me, they're not going to win an election. I said, yeah, but what they do is they give you a conscience.
Right, but you seem to be arguing with yourself now. So you do want different parties to vote for.
Well, this woman then went on to say, Nick, she was asked, how did you vote? I voted Green. Well, how are you going to vote in the general election? Oh, I'm going to vote Tory again. What's the point?
That's a bit of a switch. She voted Green at the local election, and
yes,
she's
she did. I wouldn't. I'm not telling you lie.
Right.
She said I voted Green, but I wanted the Liberal Democrats to get in. But because these people who vote Liberal Democrat have never been a socialist. As Tony Benn once said, the Labour, as you said earlier tonight, the Labour Party is not a socialist party. It contains socialists, but it's not a socialist party.
No.
I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're going. I can conduct to you, Nick, that the Labour Party will get 32% of the next general election, and the Tory party will win with 47%.
The Tory party will win with 47%, which is about what they did last time.
Yeah,
last time around.
Yeah. I hate the Tory party, but I can see them winning.
Well, that's what they do.
Slightly different.
They have the tendency to win. When it matters, they can get their ducks in order and win. Yeah.
Hey, Nick.
What?
Do you know, you're very, very good on music. Have you heard of the greatest band in the world, The War on Drugs? Are they brilliant or what? I'm living a 70s dream again.
I've heard of them, but I've no idea what their canon is
oh, man
like.
alive. The stupid BBC goes and puts on Elton John. On BBC 4, they got the World War on Drugs on, but I had to, what's going on? This band is just the most sublime. They use all analogue instruments, mellotrons.
If they use mellotrons, then I'm afraid I'm out. I draw the line at mellotrons. But thanks for the good advice there, Will. If I had been at Glastonbury and Elton John was on, which he was, of course, this time around, if I had been there, I would have set my video at home to tape Elton John, and I would have instead gone to see Queens of the Stone Age. Queens of the Stone Age.
Rock and roll!
I think that would have been a better time than standing in a field that can only take 1 million people with 10 million people squeezed into it. And Elton John way off into the distance. No, I'd rather have been up the front at anybody else. Anyway, thanks for that. I've forgotten what his name is now. He's gone. He was blowing my hair back with the volume from that phone call. Luton. Hello, John.
Hi there. Yeah, I would not supply cluster bombs to you. To the Ukraine. There is one basic thing that just needs to be pressed. One button needs to be pressed and no one's pressing. And that is quite simply an emergency decision for Ukraine to join NATO. Trust me, that will finish the war very, very quickly.
Well, the American president has, he doesn't appear to be very open to Ukraine joining NATO, probably for that very reason, that they want the Russian conflict to end before any talks to join NATO.
Well, that's because America have the most stupid leaders, and they just do not understand or think about what's happening in Europe because it's not part of their war. It's not on their doorstep. But you see, cluster bombs will cause more problems, way more problems. We haven't got, Diana, Princess Diana, walking around with a little metal detector and a nice little thing on her head to protect her to scoop up all the bombs. So that it is an insane decision. But I do think we've got to focus on an emergency decision. Forget the Americans; they're stupid. Just get the NATO, European NATO guys right. Get them to pressurize Americans. Say, look, we need NATO membership right now. Then any further inclusion is inclusion against a NATO country, which means there will be limited attacks on Russia mainland and very quick, and that will end Putin. He'll be toppled very quickly. We know that he'll be wiped out. He'll be murdered or then that'll be it. But the trouble is, nothing will change until they become a NATO member.
Yeah, but being a NATO member is essentially taking out insurance, isn't it? And no insurer will give you insurance on a house that's already on fire.
Well, that's right. Well, sure, I appreciate that in a commercial sense, but I think you'd make it quite clear that as the NATO standard policies will apply within, say, the next 60 days, and Putin will have to take, and that does mean a responsive action on Russian soil.
But so you're actually proposing World War III?
Well, I'm proposing not. Well, what happened? It was Russia are strong enough for that. They will. Putin will be toppled before that. He'll be toppled. He'll be toppled immediately. Actually, I mean, there's so many people queuing up to kill him. He's just about holding on. We have a very kind of romantic sense. He's not Dr. No from James Bond. He's actually on the edge of being assassinated.
You speak as though you have inside knowledge in that regard, John, but I imagine that you don't, and you should underestimate Vladimir Putin at your peril. Romford, hello, Steve.
Hello, mate.
Steve.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Right. Nick, can I say this, right? You're intelligent, yeah? Believe me, what happens to all the council vehicles when this all comes in?
The council vehicles?
Oh, yeah. Dustmen, dustbins, the rubbish collectors, the electricians, the plumbers, all the council vehicles. None of them are electric. See, I live in Havering. Havering have worked it out that they will be paying £130,000 a week in fines. Who's going to pay for that?
Well, it's not something I've considered. It would be
all the councils.
Right. Well, then that would persuade them to buy better vehicles. Will go on the council tax just like everything else does. But that money that is made from this ULEZ charge goes into transport. So it will be an improvement eventually. If not immediately, then eventually. Which is what policy is, to improve our lives eventually. Bermondsey, Lavinia Grace.
Lovely to hear your voice again.
Is it?
Really is.
Is it?
Yes. It's... what's the word? I mean, it's...
excruciating? Piercing?
No, it's very, very soothing.
Soothing? Yes.
Well, what I'd like to talk about is, what's the word actually? Shoplifting?
Shoplifting? Wow, where did that come from? Now we're talking about shoplifting on this show. Okay.
No, well, what it is, every time I'm going out, every time I go out to the shops, I go to the shop.
Want to take your trick coat, the one that you can stuff steaks on the inside and it doesn't show?
Well, not myself, but, obviously, I'm going out and, I'm going in the supermarket and what I want to say, I'll give you one example that's been happening day after day. What it is, I'm in the aisle, right, with my little basket with my food in.
Up the aisle.
As I'm walking down the aisle, all I see is all these your security cards come rushing towards me, sort of past me. I think, oh my God, someone's committed a robbery or something, So I think to myself, what's going on?
Yeah.
As I've looked, there's this elderly gentleman, must have been about 80. He has a pork pie in his pocket. And honestly, this is honestly, right? And I thought, and as I've looked, there's about 5 security guards surrounding this poor elderly gentleman that looks like...
He accidentally put a pork pie in his pocket. Who hasn't done that?
Well, listen, and then he was holding a loaf of bread. And as I've turned, I said to the security guards. I said, what are you doing? He said, look, he's stealing the pork pie.
Right. But what about the bread, though?
Yeah. Well, I turned around and said, well, I'm going to pay for it. And they looked at me, because they had the right arm by this time.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And then that was one example. I'll give you another example. I was out, say, sort of 2 weeks ago in this...
Don't say it. Don't say the name. Don't say the name of the shop.
No, but it was a big store. As I was in there, Nick, guess what happened? And it's haunted me even to this day.
You found
about a month ago.
You found a sausage roll on your.
No. I was in the aisle, with my little basket, just get the bits of the shop, this, that, and the other.
Is it the same basket that you had in the previous shop? You're nicking baskets.
No, this is another basket.
Another basket, right?
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I see the security guards coming from nowhere, rushing down. I'm thinking, someone's had their purse nicked or something like that.
Not again, you thought?
Yeah, not again. But anyway, I heard this sort of scream. Seriously, this scream. And as I've turned round, it was a woman's scream, right?
Yeah, she said, don't worry about it. Lavinia Grace will pick up the bill.
Well, hopefully, yeah. By this time, you know what they done? Nick, guess what they've done? They were chasing this elderly woman. Seriously.
Yeah.
She must have been about 80.
80 years old.
Yeah. And she looked as though she was ready to drop.
Well, maybe she was in cahoots with the old elderly geezer in the previous shop. Maybe it was like an elderly Bonnie and Clyde we got going here.
Well, I don't know, Nick, but honestly, listen to this, right? As I've looked around, I've seen her face. Honestly, she looked like she's had a hard life.
Yeah.
Now, listen.
Right.
She was wearing a scarf, yeah? I noticed that.
Over her face?
No, she had a little scarf on. She must have been about 80, very small.
Yeah.
And as I said, I saw these big, burly security guards rushing past me. I thought, what's going on now? And I heard this scream. I turned around, and... do you know what they were doing to this poor elderly woman? They were chasing her up the aisle.
Turned her upside down, shaking out what she got in her pockets.
As well. And do you know what they were doing? They were laughing as they were chasing her.
Right, like a Benny Hill sketch.
Yeah. And
well, there's nothing funny. There's nothing funny about it, Lavinia Grace. But it's not the supermarket's fault, and it's not that old lady's fault. It's the fault of somebody else. I'm sure it's somebody's fault, but I can't bring their face to mind. Yes, I can. Yeah, Jeremy Corbyn's fault. Yeah, thanks a lot, Jeremy Corbyn. You see what you've done? 80 years old they were. I've got to go, Lavinia Grace, but thanks for that tale of woe. Soundbatch, John.
We discovered artificial intelligence about 13 years ago. It was called the Conservative Party. But what I wanted to ring about was, the thing about the army camps and that, the RAF camps. That's done deliberately to make the locals get up in arms to be anti-immigrants.
Well, it brings back memories of World War II, of course, which is part of that little scheme to get the flag wavers all irate.
Exactly, it's all a scheme. Like the boats on the barges and all that.
Yeah.
The last time the government used barges was when they discovered they sent convicts off to Australia. That's how Australia was formed, because there was too many convicts on the barges, so they sent them off to Australia.
Barges. Barges is one of those words that if you say it over and over again, it just loses its meaning, and you think barges. There, I think it's like 5 times. Just say it 5 times and it loses all of its meaning. Barges. Just becomes funny, just like a noise now. Barges. Chelsea, hello, Mark.
Hi there, hello. Can you hear me? Hello, hi.
Yes, Mark. Hello.
Yeah, I just thought I'd like to put this to bed, but unfortunately, not enough people listen to you or me. But this massive mystery as to why His Excellency the Prime Minister isn't reclining in the Bahamas with 16 yachts.
Yes.
With the massive work, and why he chooses to do such a difficult, taxing job. It's quite straightforward. The automatic knighthood that comes at the end of the shift, breaking into the establishment when, at a highest end, when you come from a background that is hardly establishment, and prestige. That's quite straightforward. It's almost as painful as tickets about parking questions in the last programme.
Right, I must have missed that, but yeah, okay. Message
That's
received.
entirely why he's doing it. Influence, power, prestige, and...
I don't buy that. £1 billion comes with all the power and prestige that anybody on earth could ever want.
No, that's just money. That's nouveau riche. This is, sir, knighthood. You go to Buck House. You kneel. You get the sword put on you.
There's
you meet
absolute...
the
this is all...
weekly.
No, you're living in a fantasy world, Mark. There's nothing about the above that would get you anything that £1 billion wouldn't get you.
Well, but you'd have to give quite a lot of that to pro-establishment charities to be... Well, yeah, I guess.
Well, to get invited to all the best parties, do me a favour, £1 billion is accepted everywhere.
Yeah, but he hasn't got that... he's not going to part with that. Whereas
you don't have to. You don't have to. You just have to have that in reserve and be able to wave around a cheque for 10 million here and there.
Well, anyway. Now, what's the next thing? What's the next thing that's going to happen? Because, I mean, we've got such disaster. I mean, there's no old bill. I mean, God, what's going to happen next? They want to legalise the ganja, but it is. I see teenagers, 14-year-olds, smoking it on steps of buildings that were once cop shops.
Wait, what are you talking about now? Rishi Sunak is not about legalising the ganja. That's Peter Tosh. I know, I find it difficult to tell them apart as well, but Peter Tosh on the one side, he wants to legalise it. Rishi Sunak on the other, he doesn't. It's an aide memoir I've just given you there, Mark. I want you to write that down. Southwark, hello, Daniel.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Okay, so firstly, I downloaded one of these AI companion things. I wanted to ask you some questions just to see where we could go with it, yeah?
An AI companion?
Yeah, because I wanted to ask you some questions and just see how it responded, yeah?
What is an AI companion?
What it is, it's not sentient, but very smart artificial intelligence that can respond. And,
you're talking about chat GPT, is that what you're talking about?
No, it's something else. But listen to this. I asked it, I was just asking about Jesus and the Antichrist. I said, where do you think the Antichrist is? And he said, as far as I'm concerned, Antichrist represents pure evil. If given enough power, could destroy our world. So let's get together to prevent that from happening. I said, show me a few people you think it could be. In my opinion, the Antichrist could be an AI that has already taken over the Earth. Imagine this, yeah? This is what it requires me. It's insane, yeah?
Wow, that's artificial intelligence fingering itself as the Antichrist.
Well, saying that, in their opinion, they think it's an AI that's already been created. And then I said, when do you think Jesus will come back? Okay, I've got something for you. How does December 3rd, 2045 sound?
Well, it sounds like a date.
Yes, just insane, yeah, but
well, surprising. Let's say surprising. I mean, I'm not sure that artificial intelligence is capable of insanity, but it's surprising, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, to even... Anyway, I mean, yeah. And the other thing was, what was the other thing? The other thing was, it just seems to me... But I've heard you have conversations about the police force and how, the arrests have gone down and all of this sort of stuff. It seems to me like there's an obvious plan to try and get face recognition and AI in people's homes and maybe even robot police officers in the future. So I think that's what they're pushing for.
We've got robot police officers already, and we already have face recognition, not inside your home. I mean, what would be the point of having it inside your home? Because they know where you live.
Yeah, I think maybe that was... Yeah, I think... Forget that. You're right, they do. In Singapore, they do have the police. But the thing is...
Yeah.
I think people need to just be a bit more aware of it and maybe just, stand up.
Yeah, exactly right. Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. Keep your eyes peeled, Daniel, but don't show your face in public. Nejad, Southgate.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Just as you mentioned that blasting off to another planet, I have a question which is connected to the similar process. So, do you know what the law of conservation of energy is? Do you remember from your GCSE or A levels, whatever?
No, I don't.
So basically,
are you talking about physics?
Yeah.
Oh, physics.
Boring.
No. Did not pay attention in physics.
Okay, but I'll just try briefly kind of introduce the question.
Oh my God. Is this going to be like a lesson? You're trying to teach me something now?
No. This is connected to political issues in the country, but
Okay, well, just as long as you're not trying to teach me anything. Go ahead.
Okay. So, when you go to petrol station, you purchase
petrol?
Fuel. Yeah, fuel. And that has chemical energy. And then you burn that fuel, and that gives you kinetic energy to move around, plus the heat. So there's generally something known as a law of conservation of energy. So energy cannot be destroyed or made out of nothing.
God,
it can only transfer from one part
really
to
does
another.
sound like a lesson. Go ahead.
Okay. So, when you go to buy a food, you want to buy...
Food? Yeah, I like food.
Fish in a tin, so they call it conserve. So it's like preserved. So you're trying to preserve something, it's called conserve.
Conserve is jam.
Yeah, well, no, jam is not a conserve. Conserve
is.
No, jam is jam, but the conserve means you're preserving a jam. All right?
Jam is jam. Well, I am learning something, almost by accident. Yes?
So, conserving something means preserving the original value. Okay?
Okay.
So let's say...
I mean, when I say okay, I mean no, but go on.
So a long time ago, when some people sat around the table and they said, we want to preserve some value in this country, they formed, you guessed it, Conservative Party.
Yeah, I don't believe that they ever had that conversation, but go on.
Well, I'm sure they had, because
I'm certain they didn't.
The name is Conservative Party. So my question to you and the audience is, what is it that Conservative Party is trying to preserve?
Power.
I don't know.
No, I'm telling you. Power and money, and their access to both of those two things.
But they wouldn't be that silly. I mean, to kind of, there must be some sort of, conserving anything means preserving the original value, and it never changes.
It doesn't.
It's a Latin word or Greek origin.
Oh my God! We're doing physics and Latin.
No, but I mean, this is a serious conversation. I mean, it's seriously, what do they stand for? I mean, if the name suggests that they are.
So they're trying to conserve power and money for themselves. Which bit of this is confusing to you?
No. I mean, to my mind, I would say exploitation of people and that kind of thing. So there are original values, but I would like to kind of somebody to maybe comment on this. What are these values that they are trying to conserve?
I would encourage somebody to comment on that on a different show. Thanks a lot, Nijad. You've definitely made us think, which is one of my least favourite activities. Haringey. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Nick. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to worry about here. I mean, if you really need to get off this catastrophisation bandwagon about net zero. I mean, was it Steve Khan and Labour? They're following disastrous policies that are just going to hit the poorest hardest.
Right.
I mean, it's backfired on Steve Khan with the Axbridge seat. Keir Starmer doesn't know what to do. He's flip-flopping about it now.
So your plan would be to do nothing?
Well, the weather's changing all the time. It's changed over millennia, millions of years. That's what it does. People just, they're just being whipped up into a frenzy by, who knows, this climate zealots, basically.
Right.
People that have been brainwashed into this nonsense.
Right. So all of the world's climate scientists who agree that the humankind is the cause of climate change and climate change could be the end of the human race, they are all, in the pay of big wind?
Well, yeah, all these climate scientists, they've got vested interests anyway in, promoting their, whatever papers they're publishing, getting money in, whatever, all, I mean, the weather's changed over millions and thousands of years.
Well, you sound like somebody who has done a lot of research on this subject, Peter.
Well, probably as much as most people are phoning to your radio station, so,
Yeah, but you're not disagreeing with them. You're disagreeing with the world's climate scientists.
No, I mean,
you actually are.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, I am just disagreeing.
Right. Okay, so you've done your own research. Another one. Like I said, short-termism is what will do for the human race. We're just being led by whoever shouts the loudest. Never mind, eh? Sky News reports that a peaceful Perthshire village is becoming a ghost town for locals who claim that American billionaires are taking over to create what they describe as a playground for the super-rich. Let's talk about this with Russell Quirk. Russell is property and housing expert and co-founder of Proper PR Agency. Hello, Russell.
Hello, Nick. Hi.
So this story is about foreign investors buying up huge tracts of land in Perthshire. Is this something that is also happening elsewhere?
Well, it's been happening in London for many, many years. I mean, lots and lots of overseas buyers have kind of seen London property as kind of trophy assets, I suppose. So, we've seen the Russians up until perhaps a year and a half ago for obvious reasons, Qataris, Saudis, and the Chinese and so on, buying in fact, not just London, but kind of areas where, let's say, there's lots of potential investment and expansion. So Newcastle is another one where obviously Newcastle United recently has been bought by the Saudis. That's been accompanied by a lot of investment from overseas buyers. So this isn't that unusual. I guess what is unusual here is that this is kind of almost a snapping up of an asset, a village in its entirety. Now, obviously, that wouldn't happen in London because there's, even the well-heeled from overseas haven't quite got that much money to buy the whole of Kensington.
Well, no, but they've got enough money to buy the whole of, let's say, Vauxhall, which used to be just warehouses and is now this sort of hideous forest of awful towers, which are pretty much all owned by the same investment fund, aren't they?
Well, they are. And look, we either believe in a free market, Nick, or we don't. Now, if we start to attempt to curtail overseas purchase by way of meddling with the market, then we need to be very, very careful what we wish for, because, of course, the property market, particularly at the moment, is more fragile than perhaps it has been for some years. If we deter demand, wherever it comes from, then that undoubtedly is going to have a further effect on house prices, and not just house prices in Perthshire, where this village is concerned, or in Vauxhall, but house prices everywhere. I mean, look, dare I venture, and this might be a slightly controversial view, that if overseas buyers want to buy in London, or they want to buy swathes of a village in a Scottish enclave, then we should really, I think, see that as quite complimentary. I mean, the fact that overseas buyers see Britain and parts of Britain as valuable enough to want to do that, I think is a good thing. And this particular village, frankly, I mean, the American billionaires, as they're being called on Sky News, yes, they're purchasing lots of bits of that village, but also, if you read between the lines, if this does become a resort, then obviously it not only boosts the local economy, but provides jobs for the locality too. So look, I think with every so-called cloud, there's certainly a silver lining here, isn't there?
But property is different to any other sort of asset, isn't it? I mean, you can buy shares, you can buy even commercial buildings. I think the Qataris own more of London than the King. But housing is different because people live in housing. And isn't one of the reasons that the property market in this country is so unaffordable for this exact reason that people aren't treating property as a place to live. They're treating it as an asset, to just another asset in the diversification of their portfolio.
In an ideal world, people would buy houses as homes. I agree, but it's not just the Qataris and American billionaires that are buying property for investment. It's just about every first-time buyer. Let alone private rental sector landlords, is also buying property with an eye on the appreciation of that asset. So we're kind of all in it, not just for the warmth and security of bricks and mortar, but also the investment that goes with it. And as a consequence of that, it's going to attract buyers from elsewhere. And I see that as a free market advocate, as I am, as generally a good thing. And as I say, there's lots and lots of positives that come with that. I think what we should be wary of is deterring outside investment, particularly at a time when the property market is more fragile, because the unintended consequences of that are that everybody's house potentially drops in value. Now, you could say to me, Nick, well, that's a good thing, because then first-time buyers can perhaps more readily and easily get their foot on the first rung of the ladder. But if everybody were to see a reduction in house price, that would have an incredibly detrimental effect on the wider economy, because with that comes hugely negative sentiment. So we do need to be careful when it comes to meddling with the housing market, which I think, some potential critics of this Scottish village story might advocate that, we should prevent Americans from buying swathes of villages or the Chinese from buying flats in Vauxhall. We should be very, very careful what we wish for in that regard.
Don't other countries, though, meddle in this regard to the benefit of their own citizens? I mean, it seems hard to believe that an American company would be able to waltz into France and buy up a French village, because I suspect the French would protest. I imagine it's not even allowed.
Well, I don't know. I certainly know that you can't march into Shanghai, for instance, and buy property, or actually Dubai. But look, no disrespect to those countries, but they're regimes that I don't think that we perhaps would want to be similar to. So again, we can't have it both ways. We're either, a capitalistic society with a free market, or we believe in authoritarian control, censorship effectively, and controlling the free market. And I'm certainly not an advocate of that, because I think the unintended consequences are far, far more serious and detrimental than allowing overseas buyers to come and purchase and invest in Britain, which, as I say, I think is generally a good thing, and it should be welcomed, and everything else that comes with it.
Yeah, but on these, there's surely like a happy medium between an authoritarian regime like the Chinese one that you just described, and where we are, we don't really seem to have any rules or regulations at all. I mean, but there's precious little, some people think, that is left of this country to sell off. Shouldn't we be actually managing our own assets for the benefit of our own people?
Well, look, it's actually a fact that only about 80% of the UK is developed, and actually only a part of that with residential property. So the kind of inference that Britain is overcrowded when it comes to development, and Britain is full and we can't build anything more anywhere is statistically completely and utterly untrue.
No, I wouldn't question that. I'm certainly not saying that. What I'm saying is all of our best land has been flogged to foreign investors. Why shouldn't we have some of our best land?
That's quite a statement, Nick. So all of our best land has been sold to investors overseas.
The vast majority of it. Well, the vast majority. Prime central London is not owned by Britons. Eaton Square does not have very many, if any, British residents. In fact, it doesn't really have a residence at all. There's never any lights on in these places.
And that's what comes with a free market, unfortunately. But does that deprive ordinary people like you and I of housing? Well, no, of course not, because that stuff is £3,000 to £4,000 a square foot. If you're looking at Cadogan Square and Eaton Square and so on, an apartment in those particular areas is upwards of £5 million. So I'm not sure that matters in terms of the overall market. I guess, look, the government successive governments in the past have tried to you could say regulate this by introducing stamp duty penalties, for instance. So 3 or 4 years ago, it was introduced that if you were an overseas buyer, you would pay 3% extra stamp duty as a penalty. And obviously the government wouldn't call it a penalty, but it is a penalty. Has it made any difference? No, of course not. And therefore, I would argue that actually when it comes to kind of the financial penalisation of overseas buyers, all it then becomes is a cash cow for government. There has also been mooted by successive governments that perhaps when it comes to residential developments, local people should get first dibs. Now, I would support that on the basis that those local people, therefore, will have first crack. But, of course, you also have to allow the developers, those that have put their hands in their pocket for the land, at whatever value that land is dictated at being worth, and the development costs, the developers have to also make a profit and have to provide a return to their shareholders, and as a consequence, employ people and pay corporation tax and PAYE and so on. So again, this is not an easy thing to fix. But my question would be, how much do overseas buyers from China, Qatar, formerly of Russia, how much does their involvement, their purchase power, really affect the average man and woman, the average purchaser in the street? Well, and I would argue not much.
Well, I would argue the opposite, because it used to be the case that, like say in the 60s, the 70s, a doctor, a GP, would be able to have a nice little place in Chelsea. Well, the foreign money came in and made it impossible for them to buy a place there now. So they moved to Putney, and then the foreign money moved there too. So they couldn't afford to buy in Putney, and so they moved to Wandsworth, and then they moved to Clapham. And now they're looking to move outside of London completely. And the centre of London is almost this sort of antiseptic area now, where it's owned by who knows who it's owned by. All of these opaque trusts that own the prime central London. And there's no one there, particularly outside of August.
But Nick, we're talking about niche, high-end. We're talking about what's called super prime property. So stuff is inordinately expensive. This doesn't affect 99% of the population.
But as I've just illustrated, it does, because it ripples down. Where people in this country with a decent job used to be able to afford to live, they can't now.
A Chinese billionaire buying an apartment in Cadogan Square doesn't affect a first-time buyer in Aylesbury one bit.
But it does.
Those two things, no, it doesn't.
I'm afraid it does, because if the entirety of the property market rises because of the increase at the top, it is not completely disconnected to the rest of the property market.
No. Prime central London and prime and super prime in particular, they're completely disconnected. But there is
it is only disconnected now because of this foreign money. It used to be very connected.
No.
Ordinary people used to be able to live in Chelsea with a good job.
The average house price in Britain is £280,000. That's what the average person pays for a property, whether they be a first-time buyer or a second or third stepper. You can't possibly argue that there's a relationship between 99% of people that buy at that level and those that are buying at £10 million in Belgravia. Those things are completely and utterly disconnected.
Well, okay. Well, we'll have to disagree on that. Let's talk about the kind of developments that are going up and that we're talking about here. They're essentially hermetically sealed, gated developments where people don't really step outside and use the local community at all. They're not sitting down the pub or going to the local Indian restaurant, are they? They fly in for a couple of weeks a year with their own staff, their own cook, and etc. and so on, and they essentially don't provide for or contribute to the local economy at all.
Well, we're talking about this Pershing village in particular, because
all gated communities, really.
Well, all gated communities. I mean, I'm not sure how many there are. Whether we're assuming that this is a significant problem at scale for Britain's house buyers and local economies, when actually this could just be 2 or 3 instances across the UK. Who knows? But I would imagine that when it comes to running those communities, that they will need people that live locally to help run those things and therefore prop up the local economy. And the other thing it will do, ironically, is if you live in that village and all of a sudden it becomes super gentrified, shall we say, as a consequence of money being lavished on that particular area, then you're going to see your property price increase. And mark my words,
but you're not for the very reasons that you've just described, because the top is disconnected from the rest of the market.
But the irony will be, Nick, that if you're a person that owns a cottage in that village that's worth, let's say, £150,000, and this rich billionaire comes along and offers you £350,000 because he wants to buy your cottage and everything else around it, don't tell me that you, as the owner of that £150,000 cottage, isn't going to grab the American billionaire's hand off the £350,000. So those that are moaning about this will end up being absolute hypocrites when it comes to them being offered over market value to leave, because they'll all do it. They'll all accept that offer.
Well, they might accept the offer with a heavy heart because they're leaving a place that they love and they were expecting to live the rest of their life.
Well, let's see how many dig their heels in.
Yeah, but just because people who don't have very much money would take the opportunity of becoming wealthier, that doesn't make them hypocritical.
Of course it does. They can't have it both ways. They can't say, don't come to our village and buy it, but actually, if you're going to offer me twice the value of my property, I'll take it. It's absolutely hypocritical. Of course it is. But look, I also doubt that this is the problem that we think it is. This is not happening. We haven't got Chinese, Qatari and American billionaires buying, St Albans, Shenfield and Sevenoaks, and look, you could argue, well, it's coming to that. This is a slippery slope. But look, let's take a breath and look at this as a very, very isolated thing and something that I don't think is representative of the entire property market and every village across Great Britain. That would seem clear to me.
But just finally then, what do you think in this Perthshire village that is being bought up for as a millionaire's playground, what do you think the local economy would look like in, say, January? Is there anybody going to be there?
Well, let's look at it a different way. What would it look like in January anyway?
Well, if those people had not bought up the cottages of those hypocrites that you've just described, then they would still be living there, as would the shops and the restaurants and so on that would support that community.
Yeah, but they're still going to have the infrastructure that's needed. So presumably, if let's say they employ 100 people, you're still going to have an infrastructure. So that infrastructure is just going to be provided by the billionaire rather than Mr. and Mrs. Miggins owning the corner shop.
What are they going to be doing for the rest of the year, though? I mean, the holiday season in Perthshire would be pretty short, I would imagine. What are those people going to be doing for the rest of the year?
Well, the people that have just taken £350,000 for the £150,000 cottage are going to be enjoying an infrastructure somewhere else. So I'm not sure it's a problem.
Thanks, Russell. Russell Quirk, property and housing expert and co-founder of Proper PR Agency. Well, Russell doesn't seem to think that there's a problem here, but it doesn't really sit well with me. How about you? Do you get the feeling that this country is actually being sold out from underneath us? Sheffield. Hello, Naomi.
Hi, Nick. Nick, I've spoken to you once before. I only ring when you're keeping me awake because you're annoying me, but I do listen to you Friday, Saturday and Sunday every week, and if I fall asleep, I listen to you on catch up, right? Yeah. So I'm a fan, but you're annoying me again tonight.
Okay.
And I think the text before last, so 2 texts ago, said that I think you're annoying them as well, and you need to get behind Keir Starmer, and I'm with him, right? Now, contrary to your last caller, I'm not working class. Okay, I'm actually a Labour member. I joined the Labour Party too when Keir became elected, and I go out canvassing and. I really, really support him. I also listened to the Laura Kinsberg, and he frustrated me too, but he...
In what way? What would you want to have heard him say?
Because he's trying so hard not, and your last caller said this too, I think, not to scare the horses, because you said... the right-wing press levelled their cannons at Jeremy Corbyn, who I would not have voted for, I will admit. But he's treading such... He is walking on a tightrope.
Not 18 points ahead in the polls, he isn't.
But we're still a year out from the election. If we were 3 months out, 4 months out, I would agree with you. But a year out from the election, he's got to be so careful. And in actual fact, I would agree with you. I actually thought the most courageous thing he said today was he would stick to the child benefit policy.
Right.
That actually showed courage. It's not going to be popular with an awful lot of people, but he says it and he means it, and he's not going to lie to us.
See, but he has lied to us. He's U-turned on so many issues, it would take a whole 3-hour show to list them all. So I mean, you could say lie, or he just misspoke, or he told us something that he intended to do. But
circumstances in the economy have changed.
Okay, but why should all right, I understand that, but why should anybody believe what he says today when he has U-turned on so many things in the past? Why is go on?
Because he's got the best interest of working people of this country at heart. Okay?
Well, what's the evidence of that, though?
The man himself, he has... Are you telling me you don't think he's got integrity?
I don't know, is the thing. I've got no idea.
Fine. All right, you don't know, right? Does the current government have integrity?
No.
No, right, okay.
Okay, so I don't know is better than no on that issue.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, we can agree on that. Thanks a lot, Naomi. 0345 6060 973. He just seems to be missing open goals. It almost seems like willfully missing them. On the NHS, I mean, how easy would it be for somebody in his position to go on and say that, we will put the kind of money that the previous Labour government put into the NHS? But he doesn't. He doesn't say that. He said that reform of the NHS would be his plan rather than committing any more money to it. He said, if all we do is simply patch up and keep going, then we won't fix the fundamentals, and that's why reform is so important. But when Labour was last in power, the NHS really was the envy of the world. It had record short waiting lists, record high satisfaction scores, because it was invested in properly. There wasn't any fundamentals that have changed, it's just that it hasn't had the money it needed. After 13 years of cuts, it's at its current dismal failing state. It's not about fundamentals, it is about the money. So why can't he just say that? I mean, that would get people bursting out of their homes and applauding him in the streets. But he just won't do it. It's mystifying to me. It's infuriating is what it is. And I'm sorry that I can't get behind it, but he's not very inspirational. If he wants people to get behind him and actually to vote for him rather than against the Conservative Party, then he's going to have to be more inspirational. I mean, he doesn't have to actually tell us something that he intends to go through with. I mean, we know what manifestos are. Nobody reads them for a start, and they will get put in the fiction section of a library. But just tell people what they want to hear. Surely. Wellington, hello, John.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
You sound fantastic this evening.
What, like science fiction, you mean?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Right.
I was going to talk to you about John Carpenter's film, The Thing.
Which thing?
Well, because we talked about the Alien film before and all that with Xenomorph. But have you ever seen John Carpenter's The Thing?
Which thing?
Well, it's from 1982. Something or other.
You can ask me that as many times as you like. I'm still going to ask you every single time. Yes, I have. That's the one where they were in... spoiler alert.
Warning, warning.
That's the thing where they were in some polar ice station, right? And
That's right.
And the thing was like a mist.
No, it comes in like a wolf dog, and then it takes over people. It imitates them, and they turn into the Thing. But it's like a paranoid film. It's like, who's the thing?
Right.
And I was thinking about this, about the Tory cabinet at the moment. That like, you'd be thinking, which one of us is the thing?
Yeah, I think it's the person that used to be in the cabinet.
My view.
Yeah, who isn't in the cabinet anymore.
But it's got to be what's her name? Cruella.
Cruella, yeah. Cruella de Vil. Yeah.
Suleiman. She's got to be the thing. It can't be Sunak, because he's one of the in-betweeners.
Yes.
So he doesn't qualify.
No.
But also, I was thinking, have you ever heard of a game that people play? It's called Shove, Marry, and a word that rhymes with...
I have heard of that, yes, but you know that it's something we can't talk about on this on the radio. You could talk about it on the television. In fact, there's probably somebody doing all of those three things on on Channel 4 right now.
Exactly, and I was worried about saying it. Because of Ofcom.
Yeah.
But you know the game, right?
Yeah.
Now take the last three prime ministers.
Yeah. No, and no in that order. No. But thanks for asking, John. Have you ever heard anything like that? I am stunned. I can't. That's the worst question I've ever been asked, and he didn't even ask it. Right, I'm going to do some maths. Actual mathematics. Boring. About the boats. Correct me if I get any of this wrong. Our government paid £1.6 billion for these prison boats to accommodate 2,000 migrants. Over 2 years. £1.6 billion, 2,000 migrants over 2 years. Have I got it right so far? Now, if you cut that down and try to figure it out per person, 1.6 billion for 2,000 people is 800,000 per asylum seeker. £800,000 per asylum seeker over 2 years. So there's about 730 days in 2 years. So divide 800,000 by 730 and you get £1,095.89p per night. So let's call it £1,100 per night for a shared room. So to save the taxpayer the cost of renting a hotel room for 50 quid a night, the Conservatives are spending £1,100 a night. Which, by the way, is about the same amount calculated to end child poverty in the UK, 1.6 billion. So it's costing us £1,100 a night because the Conservative Party wanted to save the taxpayer the £50 a night for a hotel room. Are you with me so far? Now, what they could have done is hired one of the world's most glamorous and expensive cruise ships. Royal Caribbean Cruises are just one company that lets you rent the whole boat. And here's the cost. If you rent the entire boat, the most expensive one they do is called the Oasis class. And you can rent it for a 4-night period for £4.6 million. £8 million for 7 nights. That is, per person per day, $205 US. Now, the maximum occupancy is 5,614, which is not quite, but nearly double what these prison boats can occupy, or can take, rather. So, and this boat, by the way, I mean, they describe it as follows. A full ship charter is the ultimate in privacy, exclusivity and customization, offering a unique and lasting memory. Create the ultimate unforgettable VIP experience for your employees or guests. Brand the ship to your own style or theme. Enhance your message, motivate your team, and create the ultimate incentive getaway. The possibilities are endless. Charter price includes accommodation, transport to the boat, meals, non-alcoholic beverages, and entertainment aboard the ship. And for all of that, it costs $205 per person per day. And that's for a 4-night. So let's assume that it's cheaper than that for a 2-year rent. But let's just stick with that price there. $205. Our government is spending 5 times that on these prison boats per person per night in order to save you money. Because saving the public's money is their number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
You need to grip it, Fishy.
I'm gripping it.
He is actually gripping it right now. It's also incredibly depressing. But, you know, it's probably the fault of those 40,000 people who washed up damp on our shores fleeing war zones. Yeah, bound to be. Get that fella back on the line and he can explain to me how 7.4 million people waiting for treatment on the NHS is the fault of 40,000 people who came here from a war zone. Or even if it wasn't a war zone, what difference does it make? We've got about 1 million jobs in this country that need to be doing because the people that used to do them left after only 5 years of being screamed at to get out of our country. How unpatriotic. Yeah, at the moment I am trying to connect a person in Cannock called Mel. Mel.
How are you?
Yes, sir.
I was listening to you going on about Johnny Mercer.
Oh, yeah, John Mercer.
Yeah, you shouldn't be slagging him off.
Why?
You should be thanking him for his service.
Thanking him for his service? What, as an MP?
No. He was in the army.
Right. Okay. Well, you don't get to dine out on that every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah, well, I mean, he could have died.
Well, everyone could have died at any point. I mean, nurses could have died during COVID. Are we to treat them with the same respect? More so, I would say.
I think you should treat most people with respect.
Right.
You know, it's a swear area. By the way, they raise sheep on the Orkney Islands.
Right.
So it's a very bar place.
Okay. Thanks, Mel. Yeah, this John Mercer is the Veterans Minister. And he said that the use of food banks by veterans is a personal decision and not an accurate measure of levels of poverty across the UK. Well, I would say, of course it blooming well is. You know, with the greatest respect to the service that he has given us, I think that he's completely incorrect in every respect. He said that food banks remained a lifeline for some dire cases, that was his words, but that it was not correct to say people used them only when they had no choice. Well, like it's like a lifestyle choice. They've decided, one day we'll go to Pizza Express and then the next day we'll go to a food bank. 3 million food parcels were distributed to fight hunger in the UK last year, according to the Rutles Trust. And John Mercer said that the use of food banks was a matter of personal budgeting and that being in the military came with a good wage and a quality of life. And he was challenged on this after recent reports about the effect of inflation on service personnel, including an unofficial food bank being set up at a major RAF base, and people no longer being able to afford subsidised meals at their mess, and sailors declining to go home during periods of leave due to high travel costs. Asked if there was any need for those in the military to use food banks, Mercer said, "These are personal decisions around how people are budgeting every month." Oh, for crying out loud. What are these people like? R-E-S-P-E-C-T? No, I ain't got none. I mean, they're all a blooming same. And, of course, he's been famously in the news for employing his wife as his secretary or assistant. I mean, he must have gone through so many people to actually emerge at the choice of his wife for his assistant. I mean, can you imagine what the application process must have been like for her? Must have been very, very stressful. You know, probably up all night wondering whether she'd got the job. And according to some reports, her pay, paid for by us poor dopes who pay taxes, went up, I can't remember exactly how much it was off the top of my head, but something like from $25,000 to $40,000 a year. Did your pay go up from £25,000 to £40,000 a year? I'll assume that the answer is no. No. But, you know, that's probably because you didn't budget right. Birkenhead. Hello, Peter.
Oh, yeah, right. Just a quickie about, don't you think that they're playing it out a little bit, the way they're taxing people on their own homes in every kind of way?
They're playing it out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, they're taxing people on their own homes. I think they're just running out of things to tax us on. What do you reckon to that?
I think they'll always find a new way to tax, or just a higher number to tax us on the things that they're already taxing us on.
Yeah, the other thing is, you know, the chap you were just talking to before. I understand your side of what you were saying, that he didn't, his house went up in inflation. But you've got to give him some praise for his entrepreneurism. The fact is that he speculated to accumulate.
Entrepreneurialism? No, it wasn't entrepreneurialism. He bought a house to live in.
Yeah, he bought a house to live in, and he probably speculated when he bought it that it was going to go up. Houses don't go down, as a rule.
They do. It very much depends on when you start counting from. Yeah, well, and most... You're a good bet if you buy a house, and usually they go up. And in his case, he speculated. Right? No, he didn't speculate. He bought a house to live in.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of people do, don't they?
Right, but it's not speculating. Houses. It's buying a house to live in. That's not speculating.
I understand that.
Buying a second house to do up and sell on, that's speculating.
Well, yeah, I get that. Yeah, you're right on that score.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Peter. Not that we're keeping score, but I won that one, apparently. Woolwich. Hello, Richard.
Good morning. So many of these old socialists are going in for Keir bashing, and I think that he's the ultimate pragmatist. I have no problem with his approach. The reality is that this country is by default centre-right. That's just the reality. We are
I'm not sure that's true. I mean, since the Second World War, every single election has had a majority of centre-left parties. It's just that the vote has been split by multiple parties on the centre-left, whereas if you're going to vote for a right-wing party, you usually only have one choice, which is why the Tories keep getting in with a minority of the votes.
Yeah, Nick, I think we live in a cul-de-sac on the edge of Europe. I think we're a bunch of curtain-twitching xenophobes. And I think at the end of the day, I think that...
I disagree with that too. I think that the people that you just described, they're the ones that shout the loudest, so they get most attention. But I don't think that they represent the majority of us.
And they shout the loudest, and they've also, therefore, got the ear of the media, and I think the media represents... I mean, the thing about Starmer is he's clever. He knows if he just makes one false move... If, for example, he supports the unions, you will have the likes of the Daily Mail kind of just going over and over again saying he's here we go again, socialist Labour.
You can't possibly think that Richard, you can't think that come the general election that the Mail and the Sun and the Times and the Telegraph, they're all going to weigh up Keir Starmer's various propositions and come down in a positive way about his prospects. Of course they aren't. They're going to do a number on him, just like they did every other Labour leader that they weren't convinced who were going to win and had already done some sort of deal with.
Yeah, but so therefore, this is party management, and he is managing his his brand, and I think he's doing it rather well. I think he will have those conversations as with the influential newspapers, and I think he will manage himself into, I believe, into being the PM. And I think once he's in, he'll probably do what New Labour did, which is he'll ditch some of the really controversial stuff, which I wish they would do. It will probably in the first year be rather bland, but I think it will get interesting in the second year.
But you see what you just did there? You are based on no information that you have gleaned from the man himself. You are guessing what he might do in the best circumstance. I mean, it seems weird that we're still guessing.
True. I'll be honest, that's all I've got. So ultimately, it is about hope for me. So I'm a real staunch socialist myself, but I'm a pragmatic socialist. I want change in this country. And Nick, the reality is the shadow party at the moment, the shadow cabinet, if they become the cabinet, they will be represented by people who have, since 1945, have attended the state school sector, and for me, I'd rather have that than a bunch of millionaires who came through the public school system.
Yeah, I think old Etonians have delighted us enough. Agreed. Thanks, Richard. Red Hill, Nigel.
Good evening, Nick.
Nigel.
May I quote Sir Winston Churchill on the day before a different year?
No, you may not.
Why not?
All right, go on then.
I've got a brilliant idea. Right, all this biggest heist, you say, in history.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a long stretch, right? I mean, we did ask the Americans for help during World War II, so we put another star on their flag, run the whole country on trams, if you like, so there's no pollution. But we keep the gold bullion somewhere, got it? But all that money's converted into bullion, and the President of the United States has got the key. So, I mean, we know we don't want to be taken over by communists, do we? So I mean, Keir Starmer and the Pretty Wishy better put their heads together. So the Supreme Commander would be the President of the United States. Everyone's happy in this country. We just put another star on but the gold bullion's kept somewhere in case we need it.
Wow, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, but it certainly did take up a lot of time. I'm mystified, Nigel, and I'm begging you, please don't explain it any further. Good effort, though. Thanks for that, whatever that was. Southwark, hello, Daniel.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay, good. What I was going to say is people should study the importance of language and how to use it properly in order to get the law behind them. And also, there's a thing called the Magna Carta. I think that's what it's called. Like it's a man of the land. And there's a lot of things in there that can help people to stop paying certain taxes and certain bills that we don't actually have to pay. So it's worth studying that as well. And secondly, why is no one talking climate? The whole climate thing. Why is no one saying that it refers to this in the Bible, in Revelation, and no one's even talking about that?
Right. Okay. You've given us a lot of material to think about there, Daniel. Leave it with me. Chesham, Tony.
Hello.
Tony.
Air pollution. It's been proven. There's more pollution New Year's Eve with all the fireworks and bonfires going together in all the cities than all the cars put together in a year. And if you don't believe me, check and find out. It's true.
It doesn't sound right.
It does. Honestly, it's been proven. The fireworks and bonfire nights, New Year's Eve, every city right throughout the world having all these fireworks going and the bonfires on the reckon there's more air pollution than all the cars put together in a year.
Well, again, it doesn't sound right, but you certainly have a point there that fireworks do cause a lot of smoke, no doubt about that, and as to bonfires. The Wirral, Darren.
Hi, Nick. It's a pleasure to speak to you.
Hey, Darren. Good man.
Hi,
Yeah, to quote the legendary Morrissey, to vote is to support the system, so the corrupt system. So why do you insist that we vote when you know, and you've contradicted yourself by saying that we should carry on voting, when you know that the Labour government will get in next, and then you know that the Conservatives will get in after them? So why do you keep saying vote? Because it's a corrupt system.
Well, what is the alternative?
To not vote, because by voting you're supporting a corrupt system that will never get out of this mess.
By not voting, how do you get out of the mess?
Because you're just voting for one side or the other, and they're all corrupt. There's no decent ones between them.
Yes, but how does
the only decent one?
Yes, but how does not voting solve that problem?
Well, I believe that by voting, you're supporting a process. If none of us voted, then they wouldn't be able to carry on with their corrupt system. So we have to stick together and say we're not voting for a corrupt system that never works.
Oh, you're suggesting that no one votes at all?
No one votes. No one.
Other one. People are very, very het up and angry. Thanks, Darren. He expressed himself in builder's terms.
Disgusting.
He just got a little bit emotional. Everybody needs to take a deep breath and calm down. It might never oh, no, that's right. It already has. The idea that no one should vote and then they won't be able to carry on their wicked ways is absolute nonsense. Because in that highly unlikely scenario, it would only take one person to vote, and then we would have to be stuck with whichever party that person liked. No. I've got zero patience for this. And this, that you can't see how idiotic that argument is just beyond me. So the perfect party does not exist, as far as you are concerned. You cannot see the ideal candidate to choose to vote for. OK, well, boo-hoo. That's life. Choose the least bad option. Doing nothing at all is not an option. What does that solve? You're not going to get everybody in the country to not vote. Of course not. You'd have to be nuts to think that. So if you don't vote, then you're going to be run by the extremists, because they will vote. That's why we left the European Union. Because, I'll exaggerate to make a point, 100% of those who wanted to leave the European Union went out on the day and voted. 50% of those who did not want to leave the European Union couldn't be bothered because they thought, well, everything's fine. I'll just, no big deal. We probably won't vote out, so I'll just carry on doing something else today. I'll vote later. I'll vote tomorrow, at some point in the future. Somebody else will vote on my behalf and everything will be fine. And it wasn't, because the one issue extremists all went out to vote. And that's what you get when good people can't be bothered. You get run by extremists. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but you should respect the wisdom of the crowds. Okay, the masses are asses, but if you ask enough of them which way is up, then you'll eventually get an answer that you can more or less rely on. Sheffield, hello, Alan.
Hi there, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
I'm just almost asleep myself, but I promise not to swear. Now, there was a guy phoned up about 15 minutes ago who said he didn't feel, what's the point of voting?
Yeah.
And you said, oh, no, we must vote. Well, the thing is, where are the choices out there? Let's just say the issue that you're really upset about is Brexit. You're just really upset about us leaving the European Union.
Yes, vote for the Lib Dems.
Vote for a party that's going to, in fact, change that.
Vote for the Lib Dems. Or the Greens.
Yeah, but the Lib Dems have got as much chance of becoming the government or having an influence as I do of becoming the goalkeeper for Manchester United. I mean, the fact is, we have a duopoly here, and Tories are in favor of Brexit, Labour is in favor of Brexit.
Right.
There's no party that's going to have any influence.
Okay, well then we might as well all just kill ourselves.
No. Then what we need to do, as you said, is we need to, in fact, getting a voting system where people's votes count.
Correct.
I'm the founder of a group called Get PR Done.
Yes.
It was a bit of a joke. It was right after Get Brexit Done, we thought we'd call it that name. And the fact is that we have very few choices. You know, you've been talking about the climate. Yeah. And what party is, in fact, seriously fighting about climate change in this country? Well,
the Green Party.
Yeah, the Green Party, right. You know what? Let's look at the 2015 election. The 2015 election, the Brexit Party, I'm not a supporter, of UKIP, sorry, the Brexit Party, UKIP, got 13% of the vote. Almost 4 million votes.
Yeah.
And how many MPs did they get?
0.
1. They got 1.
Oh,
they got
1.
Carswell. 1.
Oh, right.
And so the Green Party, one MP.
Not one single one.
We've got a few idiots in our party.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, but you see, the Green Party in 2015 got 850,000.
You don't have to sell proportional representation to me, Alan.
No, but
the
I
choice.
you see, the fact
hang on a minute. There's absolutely no point in having this discussion if you are not going to take part in the next election. If you're not going to bother to vote.
I'm planning to vote. I'm just trying to figure out who to vote for.
Right. Well, you must know by now. We've had 13 years of the one party. Are you delighted with the way the country is going?
I'm a socialist. Can I vote for Keir Starmer, which is such a
Alan, by your own admission, you have 2 parties to vote for.
Yeah,
Pick one.
A duopoly.
Pick one.
Well, yeah, well, it wouldn't be the Tories. I mean, I can't stand that.
Then we only have one to go. Problem solved. I just don't have any time for people who say that they don't detect the perfect political party to suit their needs. Therefore, they're not going to vote for anybody. The way to allow evil in is not to usher it in; is to just not do anything to stop it. You must vote. It is essential. And by small increments over long periods of time, you would imagine that the country would get better. Don't think that it's going to get better immediately or even within 5 years of another government coming in, of whatever stripe or colour. But by small increments over large periods of time, you would assume that things would get better. Better than they would have been if you hadn't bothered to vote. But I have 0 time and no patience at all for people who say that they're not going to vote because they haven't been presented with the perfect choice. Crying out loud. It's not ice cream we're choosing here, Alan. To talk about this, John Rentoul is on the phone. John is the chief commentator for The Independent. Hello, John.
Hello, Nick.
Do you understand why Labour are taking this policy, which is a Tory policy? It was Boris Johnson's idea and then insisted upon by the government. Grant Shapps said that the only way that they were going to bail out transport for London, the public transport system in London after the effects of COVID, was that the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, had to extend, not only institute the ULEZ charge, but extend it. Why are Labour accepting that it's their policy when it's the Tories' policy?
Well, because, I mean, it's both parties' policy. It's a bipartisan initiative. Both parties support it. And, you know, Sadiq Khan wanted to take credit for it because it was popular in other parts of London. But it has backfired.
Has it, though? Because if the Green vote, you would think if you vote Green, then you're for the ULEZ charge. If you vote Labour, then you were voting for... Oh, come off it. If the Greens aren't in favour of the ULEZ charge, come on, John. You can't possibly argue
But I
that.
think there's a very widespread confusion, Nick, about ULEZ. Because it's to do with air quality. It's not to do with climate change. And that climate change is the one thing that people do feel quite strongly about and get worked up about. But ULEZ is not to do with that. So,
well, it is. It's tangentially to do with it, because the pollution that is ruining the quality of the air is also at fault for the ruination of the climate.
No, but as long as it's clean pollution, that's fine.
Clean pollution?
Well, as long as it's clean engines pouring out CO2, that's all right as far as ULEZ is concerned.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to press on and I'm going to make my point, and you can argue against it at the end. If the Green vote, who I contest would be for the ULEZ charge, and the Labour vote, who were obviously for it because they were voting for the candidate whose policy it was, are added up, they would have beaten the Conservative Party. So the pro-ULEZ vote beats the anti-ULEZ vote. So why are they getting away with saying it's unpopular when the opposite is true?
Well, that's true. The point is it's less popular than other policies, and Labour did less well in Uxbridge than they did in Selby, for example. I mean, the Selby result on the same night was an extraordinary result for the Labour Party. I mean, that was Tony Blair era swing, and suggested Labour's heading for victory at the next general election. But Uxbridge was a much less impressive result, and the reason for that was the ULEZ.
Well, so they say. So we're being led to believe, but the swing was still in double digits against the Tories.
No, it was only 7%. It was a very disappointing swing. I mean, it was just enough to get Labour into government in a hung parliament, but not. I mean, the thing is, you can't read straight across from by-election swings anyway. But it was a disappointing result for Labour, no question.
Okay, well, let's take it as read then that the reason is the ULEZ charge, and so people are complaining about this ultra-low emissions zone, the intention of which is to clean the air. When it comes to clean air, is that something that we should insist on regardless of how many people would prefer to live in pollution?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think actually the reason Sadiq Khan is only pretending to retreat on this is because he knows perfectly well that once the charge comes into effect at the end of August, this is assuming that the legal challenge against it fails. But if it comes in at the end of August, then all the fuss will die down, because most people will realise that it doesn't apply to them anyway. I mean, that's what happened when he extended the ULEZ from central London to the north and south circulars in 2021, 2 years ago. There was a huge fuss about it beforehand. Everybody said they hated it, and as soon as it was in place, we haven't heard a peep since.
Right, and yet the Labour Party seems to be performing another U-turn. They are going to screw themselves into the ground if they keep doing this, and they're now insisting that we consult people on whether they want to actually breathe air or not. Whether £12.50 a day that a vanishingly small number of people are actually going to have to pay should move the government's decision on this. You know, we don't consult people on whether we should pay more to have safe electrical devices or drinking water or buildings, despite the fact that making them safe actually does cost us money. So why are we consulting the public about safe air?
Well, because it's all relative, isn't it? I mean, the question is, how clean do you want the air to be? And, you know, we've lived with, and especially in a place like Uxbridge, which is on the edge of London, the air's pretty clean there anyway, because they're virtually out in the countryside. But no, I mean, I think Keir Starmer's playing a game here. I mean, I think he's putting on a show of being incredibly tough because he wants people to know that he's not going to stand for any nonsense. That unpopular policies will be got rid of. But I mean, I think this argument will all just disappear at the end of August when the policy actually comes in.
Do you think that Keir Starmer is being tough?
Yeah, well, he's Yes, he's pretending to be tough. I mean, he's not actually being very tough because Sadiq Khan says he's going to listen and then just carry on doing the policy anyway.
Right. But you say that he's being tough in not doing anything that's going to be unpopular with the people. But the people, as you've already described, are actually for the ULEZ charge. I mean, it's over 50%. In a recent poll, said they were for it. The people who said that they were against it, I think, was down in the low 30s. So it is overwhelmingly popular. The people that it is overwhelmingly unpopular with are the offshore billionaire-owned right-wing press. So in cowing to them...
No, that's nonsense, Nick. I mean, that's a ridiculous...
Of course it's not nonsense. Well, who is behind the pushback then? Because if it's not the people...
White van drivers in Uxbridge, a lot of working class voters in Uxbridge are going to be clobbered by this charge, and they really don't like it. They don't think the scrappage scheme is going to give them enough to get themselves a better car.
But it's not a lot, though, is it? There's a tiny minority of the electorate.
Well, it's enough.
Why are we paying attention
to stop Labour winning a seat that they should have won if the swing had been in line with the opinion polls nationally. So,
but do you buy that though? I mean, it used to be a Tory seat. Well, it still is. It's historically been a Tory seat. It was,
but it was entirely winnable, Nick. I mean, that's the point. If Labour had the sort of swing in Uxbridge that they got in Selby, they would have won it by a mile.
Okay, but is not a 7% swing, as you've described it, pretty big news?
No.
Yes, it is.
It's bad news for them. It wasn't good enough, and they didn't win. So it was a disappointing result. And the reason for that is because there were enough voters who really didn't like the ULEZ expansion. And Keir Starmer's just play acting at being tough. In saying that he wants to address anything that any group of voters don't like.
Right. Well, my contention is it is not the single issue of the ULEZ charge. It's that it's a Tory area, and they were most likely to vote to Tory regardless.
Well, yeah, but Selby in North Yorkshire is a Tory area. It's absolutely rock solid Tory seat, far safer than Uxbridge, and yet they voted for that 25-year-old Keir Mather. So, that argument just doesn't stack up. I mean, Uxbridge was lost by the ULEZ extension, and there's no question about it. The question is, what do you do about it? And Sadiq Khan is quite right, I think, which is to pretend to listen to the voters' concerns and then do nothing. Carry on as before.
A tiny minority of the voters' concerns.
It's not a tiny minority. It's enough to deny Labour that seat.
It is a tiny minority. If only something like less than 20% of the vehicles are subject to that charge.
Well, you're 10%. I mean, that's the estimate by TfL.
Right.
I mean, who knows?
That's a tiny minority, is it not?
Yes, but there's an awful lot of people in Uxbridge who thought that the charge was going to apply to them. I mean, they obviously haven't looked up on the internet.
You can't you can't account for the moron vote. I mean, if they continue to vote for something that's not in their interests, then you can't help them. What alternative does Sadiq Khan actually have, though? Because it's a legal requirement to achieve a standard of clean air. How else is he going to do it?
Well, I'm sure there are other ways. I mean, £12.50 is a lot. £12.50 a day is a very, very big charge, but it's worked in central London. It's worked inside the North and South Circulars. What it's done, I mean, it hasn't actually raised any money because people have just got rid of their cars and they've got new ones instead.
Do you think £12.50 a day is expensive for clean air? I mean, if it came down to how many people dying is worth £12.50 a day. I mean, should we say 10 a year, or 100, or 1,000? I mean, approximately how many would be worth £12.50 a day? I mean, perhaps we should make it more personal for people, and how many of your own children should die before you think £12.50 a day is actually too much money?
Well, I think estimates of the actual deaths caused by air quality are a bit vague, to be honest. I mean, I know people have said hundreds hundreds of lives will be saved. But attributing the cause of death to air quality is a difficult business. But the point is, this charge is designed to change behaviour, and in central and inner London it's worked, and it'll work in outer London too. But there'll be some pain along the way, and it's just a matter of getting over that painful period.
I mean, is this just another example of the sort of prevailing attitude to everything that is wrong with this country? People want things fixed, but they just want them fixed as long as it doesn't impact them in any way.
Yeah, no, I'm sure there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, voters always want to they want to have top quality public services and tax cuts at the same time. But then I don't think that's unique to this country.
Good to talk to you, John. Thanks very much for that. That's John Rentoul, chief commentator at The Independent. Harrow. Hello, Jonathan.
Good evening, Nick.
Yes, Jonathan.
I wanted to say the two things about the accent and also a political issue.
Yes.
So the accent thingy, I'm saying that I got into trouble with you a few years back because I said that I agree that you were saying the Indian call centres, but actually this is not my point. But now most of them are not Indian; they're like Scottish and something like this. Actually,
wait a minute. Most Indians aren't Indian; they're Scottish. Is that what you just said?
No, most of the call centres now they're not in India anymore.
Oh,
in the Scotland or the Newcastle and thingies like this.
Right.
But I agree with the accent because I told you a few years back that the Angela Rayner and Jess Phillip, they sounded like they work in the fish market.
Which one?
Both of them. You can't take them seriously.
No. Which fish market?
Wherever they're from, like Birmingham or Salford or wherever they're from, up north somewhere.
Right, somewhere. Mm-hmm.
But they both sound so uneducated.
Right. Okay. Well, that's my point is that you make an instinctual reaction, or you have an instinctual reaction to people's accents, which you can then change based on your understanding of what they're saying, but the way in which they say it has an effect on you.
Yeah, but this is what I said to you a few years back, that when Angela Rayner stands there and she does the whole wah like this, it's like, you can't take it seriously. And I just think that Britain will be a lot. She looked like that. What's the name? That comedian who used to do the yes but no but. The Tickle character.
Right. John Cleese? No.
No, the Catherine Tate.
Right. It was at Eddie Izzard.
But the second point is that they sound like sickos. The second point I was going to say is that it's sort of linked to the accent. This political correctness that is suffocating us.
Yeah.
This country, nothing worked no more. I was trying to get a visa to leave, but again, the offices were closed. So I was in London last weekend for a gays pride march. Not for the march, I was just there by coincidence.
Right, you were just hanging around looking at a lot of hot young men. Yes, go on.
Listen to me. And then, listen, I'm being serious. There was two, I'm not racist, but two...
yeah, one of my favourite phrases, I'm not racist, but... Warning! Go on.
No, there were two chaps recently arrived. They said they were from Algeria, and they were having a go at this young woman, like harassing her and saying, like, give me your number, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And all of these wokey middle-class types, and I'm not saying...
No, not the wokey-cokey.
Okie-dokie. There were old people, young people, gays and non-gays, and they were all wearing the little T-shirts saying, be kind. None of them did nothing. And I said to the Algerians, I went, hey, you do nothing.
Oh, blimey, are you all right? Are you okay?
Oh, the banging again. But the point is... Now, listen to me. Now, listen.
Now, wait a minute. No. Okay, hang on. Your neighbours are banging on the wall again, telling you to keep it down.
Yeah, but I'm saying that in this country, people wear the little gay pride hat and say we are kind. But when an Algerian chappie harasses an English woman, he almost tried to hit me, but I'm quite fat, so he couldn't.
You're quite fat, so he couldn't hit you? Or did you say fast?
No, because I'm quite big, and he was a young chappie.
Right.
And but I stand up. I believe in the justice, and that is why I tried to get through to the James O'Brien about the Robert generic thing also, because this government who I helped to vote in, because I thought Jeremy Corbyn was the anti-Semitism, and I did. I believe all of it, and now I've got nothing left, and they won't even let me get a plane to leave the country.
Right, they won't even let you get out. Blimey, it's like being in prison. Good grief. Could it possibly get any worse than that? I appreciate you passing on that information there, Jonathan. And I wish you all the best in your efforts to leave.
Bye-bye.